righty, what's up, guys? How's everybody doing? Welcome back to the show. I'm Boston Brian. This is Blunt Politics. I appreciate you joining me. It's Thursday, December 4th, 2025. Hit that like button on the way in. Subscribe to the channel. If you find yourself liking what you're hearing, liking what you're seeing, if you're coming back, for a couple shows during the week, if you find yourself liking what's going on inside the old chat with some good people, I appreciate you. Please hit that like. Like I said, subscribe to the channel. Let's bring in the old chat now that we talk about it. Now that I bring it up. Show you guys on the stage there. There you are. What's up, guys? How are you? Make you a little bigger. What's up, Lady J? How are you? What's up, Olga? How's everything? What's up, Alvin? Laser Sword? What's up, Yakov? What up, William? Hey, Laura. How are you? Thank you, Rox. How are you? Happy Thursday to you as well. What's up, Julie? What's going on to everybody on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, the whole 9 yards? Make sure you're doing what you can. We got a lot to talk about, lots to discuss today, and not a ton of time to do it as usual. But apparently, the FBI has arrested somebody in connection with the January 6th pipe bombing. I don't know how it's possible with Marjorie Taylor Greene still out, a free person, a free citizen, but we'll be diving into that. We'll be taking a look at, who's been named, what happened, where they found them, what's been going on. We'll also be taking a look at, obviously, the Admiral there, Frank Bradley, inside of Congress to answer, to testify basically for the, the double tap strike that he conducted on the Venezuelan warships. We'll have, we'll be hearing from different congressmen on what they thought about what they saw, what they think about the whole thing. We'll be diving into a James O'Brien react to Trump's Somalia racism from the other day. We didn't play it on the show because, I didn't find it necessary. There was too much other stuff going on that I found more important. But, Donald Trump went off on one of these, and we'll play the clip, but he went off on one of these, racist, bigoted rants that he has that he just, seemingly doesn't care about anymore. Said so in that clip. We also have an I've Had It ladies podcast going after Mike Johnson. We'll be talking about Russia has now declared victory in Pokrovsk for, I believe, the 5th time. So we'll be taking a look at some of the maps, what's actually going on in the front lines, the discrepancies between the maps, what one shows, what one doesn't show. But yeah, lots to dive into. I appreciate it. Make sure you hit that like button. Thank you so much to everybody who was kind enough to contribute to this show. If you're in the position financially to do so, all I ask for is a buck or two. Anything above and beyond that is 100% totally on you. But there's a multitude of different ways you can help. There's a Venmo right here up in the corner. You just take a picture of that with your cell phone. It sends you right to the Venmo. You send $1. You say thanks. It helps the show. It's not that difficult. But you can also join for a YouTube membership just underneath me. Hit the join button, or I don't know if it's a money symbol or what it is now. But, for $2.99 a month, I think it's the biggest bang for your buck that you're going to get. The most enjoyment. I think, like I said, you'll find a great place in that chat. We have great mods, great people here. So, yeah, make sure you can also sign up at patreon.com/Boston Brian. So all of that self-promotional bullshit out of the way. Again, nothing hidden behind a paywall, nothing that you have to pay for. Again, if you just want to watch the show for free, you can see everything that I have ever done as far as content, shorts, videos, YouTube lives, everything, TikTok, whatever it may be, whatever platform you're on, you can see my content for free. But I just ask, like I said, if you're in the financial position to do so and you find, the importance of independent media, then I would advise you or ask you, please, to contribute to the show. So thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Not only the mods. Oh, thank you so much. Who just became a member? Thank you, Gamer. Thank you, Gamer, so much for becoming a member. I appreciate that. Kicking it off in the right direction. Who's in there? WW as well. Congratulations on being here for 21 months as a member. All hail. Welcome. Happy Thursday. Like and sub. Thank you, W. Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you so much. All right, let's jump into it. Let's get into the first story that we're going to talk about today. And I see you in there, Deb. I see you with that gifted membership. You saint you. Thank you so much, guys. You guys have been amazing and can continue to be amazing. But yeah, let's talk about this January 6th pipe bombing suspect. Apparently been arrested, named, the whole shebang. So let's dive into this. I don't know if this is, I think I have another one that's kind of more up to date. So let's just dive into a minute of this, see if he kind of gets all of the information. If not, I have another clip here that'll give us, I believe, the guy's name and all of the other information that we're looking for as well. So again, I'm Boston Brian. This is Blunt Politics. I really do appreciate it. A ton of stuff that we got to cover today. We're diving into the January 6th pipe bombing suspect that has, allegedly been arrested. But again, I question if they got the right guy. It just seems like Marjorie Taylor Greene is still out and free and clear to do as she chooses, when she chooses. So again, just saying. Just saying. All right, let's dive into it. I appreciate it, guys. All right, let me get out of this one, and I'll play this one. All right, here we go.
News happening right now in the newsroom. The FBI has arrested a suspect in connection with the planting of pipe bombs at the DNC and RNC offices in Washington, D.C., the night before the January 6th insurrection. CBS News Justice correspondent Scott McFarlane has been following this case for us, and he's live right now in our Washington bureau with the late-breaking details. Scott, what can you tell us?
Vlad, two sources familiar with the matter tell CBS News the arrest was made just after 8 a.m. on the East Coast, made by the FBI's Washington field office or in conjunction with the FBI's Washington field office. We don't have the name of the person arrested yet, but we expect that name to become public quite soon when court filings are unsealed, either at the federal courthouse here in Washington.
So this was obviously before the name was released. So why don't we jump into this other clip here? Because I think this was more recent and has the name of the individual. It's just a quick clip, just less than 2 minutes. I wouldn't subject you to too much more of that from Fox News anyway. But yeah, this is just, I think, the most recent update. This was from, this says 3 hours ago. I'm sure there's been others since then. But, you know, just as I started putting the show together, this is what was on there. So I think that the suspect is named in this. And I'm pretty sure it's my name. You know, not full name, but I think it's my first name.
A pipe bomb from 5 years ago. Fox News alert now. Two sources telling Fox News the FBI has a man in custody. For the latest on that, David Spunt working that story in Washington. What do we have, David?
Well, Bill, we're being told that the suspect's name is Brian Cole, Briancole. We're not sure on an age or a specific residence, but picked up in Northern Virginia, the suburbs of D.C., just a few hours ago this morning, in the custody right now of the FBI. This has been a case that has mystified the Washington, D.C. community, the top levels of the FBI going back to the Christopher Wray administration at the FBI. This happened January 5th, 2021. To refresh everyone that are joining us right now, the day before the attack on the U.S. Capitol, agents say there were two bombs placed, one outside the DNC
I find it remarkable that it took this long, right? I mean, you would think with such a high-profile event, you know, so many cameras, so many angles, so many people talking about it in chat rooms and text messages and emails and, you know, everything that's been released on that day, that it took this long. I mean, we talked yesterday about, you know, the Pentagon watchdog, or, you know, the Pentagon investigation that took fucking 9 months. 9 months just to come out with the determination that Pete Hegseth, yes, indeed, did put military service members at risk when he released classified information while involving a journalist inside that signal chat. Right. So, again, 9 months to determine that. You know, this was January 5th, 2021. We're now in December 4th, 2025. And they're just making the arrest now. And I know, you know, you got to, again, make sure that the fucking T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, whatever it may be. But, you know, it's sometimes these things are frustratingly and painfully slow, right? Like you would think there would be people that know about this, people that were talking about this, people that were involved, right? Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. But, you know, again, good to see that they have at least at this point has somebody in custody, somebody that we can, you know, hold to account for these actions, right?
One outside the RNC headquarters between 7:30 and 8:30 that night on January 5th. The bombs did not detonate, but they were viable. They could have hurt. They could have killed people. Over the past 4 years, agents visited 1,200 homes and businesses. They conducted more than 1,000 interviews, Bill. They reviewed approximately 39,000 video files and went through more than 600 tips. It's unclear what led them to this suspect, Brian Cole, but we're told authorities will hold a news conference at some point today. We're working for more details there to find out exactly.
I haven't heard when that news conference. Let me see if there's anything. Let me see if I just type in pipe bomber and news conference and see when that might be. Can let you guys know, or if it's, you know, sometime soon, maybe we can cover it. Let's see, a news conference. See if they give any more information. Let's see. Watch live FBI DOJ remarks on arrest. Is that going on right now? Oh, is that what fucking Pam Bondi and Kash Patel were yapping about? All right, yeah, I got you. Yeah, I saw a little bit of that, and they were doing more, you know, patting themselves on the back for work that they had absolutely no involvement in whatsoever. You can be assured of. The Trump administration official will brief reporters Thursday afternoon, yada, yada, yada. So I'm sure that's what they were talking about. All right. So we'll see if there's any more information to come out of that. I'm sure they didn't divulge too much more information, especially on, you know, kind of how they went about getting this. If I'm wrong, let me know in the chat. If anybody kind of watched that press conference and has any more information that we're not talking about here, let me know in the chat. And we'll be sure to let everybody know about that. But I don't really feel like sitting and diving through some Pam Bondi and Cash Patel bullshit right now. We got a lot of stuff to chat about. Like I said, as the information comes out, I'll be sure to pick that up, filter it through, and we'll talk about it on the show. Again, who this kid is, what his affiliations are, what the fucking motivations might have been, again, how the FBI, the DOJ went about, pointing the finger, pinpointing this guy as the suspect. So I'm sure there's a lot still to come out. What's up, Tobias? What's up, brother? Hey, Mama Brooke. What's going on? How's everything? Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Bondi held a news conference already, blamed Biden, of course. I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure they didn't give too much more information than what is, being talked about here. Probably name, just generic stuff as the investigation, as the information comes out. But yeah, again, we'll take a look at it. I'm sure it'll be reported on. We'll take a look at what was talked about. But I'm not going to subject you to that entire press conference with fucking Jeanine Pirro, Pam Bondi, Cash Patel. I mean, nobody needs to go through that entire thing to try to get the pins, to try to get the points from it, right? That's what I'm here for, right? Let me do that. I'll go through all the reporting, and then we'll compile it, and we'll talk about it on the show. But yeah, thank you. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you to everybody on Facebook. Thank you to everybody on YouTube, Twitch, Instagram. I appreciate you chiming in. I appreciate you, giving me the points and let me know what's up. But yeah, just want to let everybody know, even though you're still seeing Marjorie Taylor Greene, a free woman, apparently there has been a suspect in custody, Brian Cole. And I think he said he was a Virginia man, if I'm not mistaken, if I just heard that correctly. So, what we know so far, just letting you guys know what we know, keeping you up to date, keeping you up to speed, because that's what everybody seemingly was talking about this morning. And then, like I said, if there's any more, we'll talk about it on the Sunday show. We'll talk about if there's any information, talked about as to what his affiliations are, motivations, that type of thing. We can dive deep into that. I'm sure there's going to be more than ample time. But let's dive on to this next subject that I want to talk about, probably the next most talked about, if not the most talked about, which is this admiral now coming in to testify, coming in to speak to lawmakers in Congress about the double tap. If not more specifically, that second strike, if I'm not mistaken, from what I've heard, and I kind of wanted to dive into this with you guys, so I haven't watched too much on it, but from what I've heard, he's trying to make the excuse that these guys, the two survivors that they did see, that they did recognize after the first strike that were survivors, were somehow trying to recover the drugs and were trying to get back on the boat that was just hit with the United States fucking missile. Again, I know a lot of these people are going to be saying anything they can to try to get their ass out of hot water, right? To keep their fucking ass out of the grass, because they don't want to be the grass while the fucking lawnmower comes riding over. And everybody's trying to do their part to pass the buck, to try to say and do whatever they can to make sure that they're not left holding the fucking bag at the end of this, right? So again, it doesn't make any sense to me that you could have the wherewithal. You could be a Navy admiral, a commander in this operation, and then somehow think that after you strike this fucking vessel with a missile, or whatever the fuck, the ammunition was specifically, right? That these guys were going to start recovering the drugs and swim them to fucking the United States? What are we talking about here? And again, once the vessel is struck by the missile, it stops then becoming a vessel, right? Once it stops floating, once it's in a bunch of fucking pieces, it's not a vessel anymore. It's wreckage. Right. So I'm not, it sounds pretty ridiculous to me. It sounds asinine to me that the legitimate excuse that they're using for this second strike, as far as I've heard, and again, we'll dive into it here, we'll see if it differs, is the fact that they witnessed these two survivors trying to, again, recover some of the drugs, like they were going to fucking swim them to the United States or back to Venezuela, and that they saw them or heard them making radio calls to what could have been ships or people nearby to help, right? Again, wouldn't that be like the perfect situation? Again, wouldn't that be the perfect situation? That's almost like the idea of a double tap, right? Again, not used in legitimate circumstances, but that would be the idea, to wound the first vessel so that they can call in other vessels to help. So then you could then apprehend more people with only the use of one missile strike. You see how that works? Right, like the same thing that we saw from Israel, from the IDF, when they struck the hospital, they would wait till people would congregate around the hospital, people would fucking be digging through the wreckage, sifting through it, looking for survivors, fucking the first aid responders would be on site, and then they'd hit it again, to make sure that they caused even more damage. like, wouldn't this situation be the ideal situation? Again, if we're trying to take into account, if we're going by the words, of what this Trump administration is trying to accomplish, wouldn't you want to get all of these boats in one place and you can apprehend all of them? Like, wouldn't you? That'd be a great opportunity to arrest all. You wouldn't even have to use another missile, y'all. You got them right there. So it doesn't make any sense to me. Again, they weren't going to swim these drugs to the United States. It's no longer a vessel. Once it's struck by a missile, it's then fucking wreckage, which again changes the entire operation. Even if you thought that they were making calls to other vessels in the area, there's still ways in which that you can make sure to not only stop those drugs from being put onto other vessels, but you could also intercept those other vessels, arrest those other individuals, and prosecute them in accordance with the law, right? I mean, so even the excuses given today, from what I've heard, don't register as something that makes sense, and don't pass the sniff test. Don't pass the fucking sniff test, in my opinion. But let's dive into this. This is from CBS talking about how Rep. Himes on the troubling details from the classified briefing that he saw on these strikes. So let's take a look at it.
Let's start, though, with those closed-door Capitol Hill meetings between a Navy admiral and senior lawmakers. Those meetings are high stakes, and they are classified. Admiral Frank Bradley will answer for a deadly September 2nd boat strike after a first strike on a suspected drug boat didn't quite finish the job the Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth ordered him to do. So Republican and Democrat lawmakers are going to drill down on what happened after a Washington Post report claims Hegseth ordered commanders to, quote, kill everybody. Hegseth called the Post's reporting fabricated and inflammatory. But that second strike is where the scrutiny seems to be the hottest. The military calls the strike like this a double tap. Now, sources to CBS News say two people who survived that first strike were attempting to climb back onto the boat before the second fatal strike. Our sources also say the pair were trying to salvage drugs and appeared to be in contact with other nearby boats that could have helped them. So let's go live to where all of this is happening.
Again, with the video footage playing in the background, we saw that. They posted it. Can you please explain to me how you could even consider the wreckage that they were clinging onto still a vessel? Like, what do they were going to strap one of the outboards that magically survived this fucking strike onto what? A piece of the wreckage? And then they were going to transport anything they could carry with their hands to the United States? Like, what are we actually talking about, right? Like, do you think we're fucking stupid? Are you trying to insult our intelligence? Because even if we do take what you're saying, at face value, it doesn't matter, because again, that vessel is no longer a vessel. It becomes wreckage, which changes the circumstances. And again, as we just said, if you think they're trying to, radio in other boats, that's a perfect opportunity for you to intercept, arrest, detain even more people involved in this operation. Right? That's how I would think about it.
News congressional correspondent Caitlin Huey.
And I do believe.
I
do believe that the admiral said that Pete Hegseth did not give a direct order saying kill them all, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was a portion of one of these clips that I saw too. So again, I think they're trying to all save each other's asses while saving their own ass at the same time, right?
About whether this new reporting will guide lawmakers in their questions.
Hey, Reed, great to see you. Well, we are starting to get some readouts from lawmakers who have been in those classified briefings. Just to kind of walk you through what we've seen so far, you played that video of Bradley and Kane arriving on Capitol Hill. They met for about an hour with House Intelligence and House on Armed Services leaders, top members of those committees, in a classified room up here on Capitol Hill, which is referred to as a skiff. We have seen lawmakers emerge from that meeting. The two admirals are continuing on to meet with other lawmakers. But Reed, I want to give you a sense of what we're hearing so far from lawmakers who have been in that meeting. I want to show you or talk to you a little bit about what Congressman Jim Himes, he's a Democrat from Connecticut. He is the ranking member on the House Intelligence Committee. He is a Democrat, but here is what he said about what he saw in that briefing. He says, what I saw in that room was one of the most troubling things I have seen in my time in public service. He continues on, you have two individuals in clear distress without any means of locomotion with a destroyed vessel who are killed by the United States. Now,
and that's Rep. Himes saying this after seeing the video. I mean, after getting the classified briefing, seeing and hearing stuff that we don't even have, we're not privy to at this moment in time. That's him saying that, right? That's him saying, hey, what I saw was these two helpless individuals that, again, no longer had a vessel, no longer had a way to propel themselves, of something to use as locomotion, is what she was talking about here, to do anything, to cause harm to anybody, to transport those drugs anymore. So therefore, that becomes an entirely different situation, especially under the rules and regulations of maritime law, even if you're at war with these enemy combatants, so to speak, that once they're shipwrecked, once they're survivors of the original attack, then you are required. It's your duty. It's the law that you have to go into rescue mode, or again, apprehend, detain, but just make sure that these people survive and are treated for and cared for in a offered quarter, so to speak.
Also responded to what you just laid out, which is what the administration is claiming their justification for that second strike, that there were two people on board.
I mean, look at the strike. I mean, does this in any way, do you think that's still going to be fucking drivable? Right? Is that, you're going to buff that one out? You're just going to put a little spit shine on that. They're going to hop right back in, fire the engines up, and everything's fucking going to be hunky-dory, right? Oh, yep, on our way to the United States we go. Don't mind that fucking massive fireball engulfing this entire ship. And don't mind the fact that, it's no longer in one piece, right? Just hop on back in. Don't worry. Like, who are we kidding in this?
Had survived that initial attack, and in their telling, they were communicating with other boats and trying to salvage the drugs on that boat, and that is their justification for that second strike. Here's what
how are they trying to salvage the drugs? And again, I'm not saying they weren't, or even that was the intent. I don't know. But again, seems pretty fucking last thing on the mind when all of their buddies are dead. You got to imagine the drugs are strewn all over the fucking place, if not burning, directly on the boat. So it's hard for me to be like, they're sitting fucking, clinging onto wreckage, looking at dead bodies floating around and the drugs on fire, being like, yeah, we got to save the drugs. I don't know. I'm assuming they were calling for a rescue. I'm assuming they were calling for help for themselves. But, again, it's remarkable that people still think that it's like these high-level narco terrorists that are actually on these boats themselves. Right? When you hear these lawmakers like, oh, these narco terrorists that are responsible for this. Do you honestly fucking believe? Do you have no idea how the drug trade works? Like, do you honestly think they're hopping in these boats themselves and possibly exposing themselves as targets? Or do you think that they, use brutality, violence, and force, or, coercion and kidnapping to fucking force people into doing this type of shit, right? Or desperate human beings, desperate for a fucking dollar, or, whatever it may be. Those are more likely the people on these ships, the people on these boats, than it is a high-level narco terrorist doing the deed himself. That's just not how it works.
Said in response to that, he said, according to what he saw, they were not in a position to continue their mission in any way. Now, Reed, I want to caveat all of this by saying this is just one lawmaker, a Democrat, who is describing what he saw. So we are waiting to see and hear from Republicans on these various committees as well, to see what their
and I think the only other person that I saw kind of speak on this or have a statement on this was Tom Cotton, who just kind of had this, he acted in accordance and he supports and whatever, the same thing you would expect Tom Cotton, a Republican, to say in this situation, where Pete Hegseth is giving the orders and Donald Trump is responsible for the whole shebang. So, again, take it for what it's worth with a grain of salt. You hear one Democrat talk about what he, takes from this, from what he saw, and you got Tom Cotton, a Republican, talking about what he takes from this, from what he saw. So again, somewhere in the middle is definitely, or you know what I mean. And I'm leaning more towards what fucking Rep. Hines had to say than I am Tom Cotton. I could definitely tell you that much. Because I don't think it's too hard to see, especially from, again, the release footage that we all saw with our own eyes, that vessel is probably not going anywhere anytime soon, right? That these guys, if survivors, are probably posing no threat to anybody soon. And again, a good policeman, right? A good fucking, a good officer would be like, hey, we have an opportunity here. If he's calling more people in, why don't we get some people on site? Right? Let's get more fucking people on site. That way we could apprehend and detain all of these boats or whatever boats show up. We'd get more bang for our buck. We wouldn't even have to shoot. No fight, no shots fired. We wouldn't have to waste another missile. But apparently that's not the thinking because, again, goes more along the lines of, hey, do make sure that all these people are dead, as opposed to, hey, our mission is to stop the drugs from coming into the country, which again is pretty hard to argue as you're, pardoning, drug kingpins and, the ex-president of Honduras who was responsible for 400 tons of cocaine coming into this country. It's pretty difficult to argue that on one aspect, on one hand, as you're trying to say, hey, no, all we care about is the drugs. That's all we care about. But yeah.
Now is, and what their recollection or what their recounting is of what they're seeing in this video. Now, to take a bigger step back here, lawmakers up here have the same questions that you and I and most Americans have. They want to know the timeline. They want to know who was in the room. They want to know what the justification was for that second strike. But Reed, there's also a bigger question that lawmakers have up here, which is, are we at war? Especially from Democrats, and you do have.
Well, it's a pretty simple question to answer, considering Congress, has not signed off or talked about or been fucking asked about in any way, approached, about signing off on a declaration of war towards any country. So no, the answer to that is no, right? So no, but that wouldn't again change what we're talking about as far as our conduct, military conduct. As far as, fucking the rules of engagement in this, even if they were enemy combatants, again, once the ship is attacked, once the ship is struck, once it's shipwrecked, once they have no means of fucking transportation, once they are no threat, you know what I mean? Your whole role changes from killing those people or stopping them to then, making sure that those people survive, making sure that they're cared for and provided quarter. Right, that's just how it goes. So again, even the "are we at war, not at war" argument doesn't get these people out of hot water in this circumstance.
Republican, at least, Rand Paul, who is kind of an anomaly in his party, but who has been calling these strikes illegal in the first place and questioning their legality. Not just that second strike, but the whole entire strike strategy and program. So you have lawmakers up here saying, are we at war? We need an answer from the administration, especially since the president said just yesterday and has continued to say that he is planning potentially land strikes in the future. They want to know because Congress has to weigh in on that. They are proposing a war powers resolution sponsored by Rand Paul and 3 other Democrats to say that you can't conduct any sort of strikes without congressional input.
Again, that's what we need to fucking claw back. That's what Congress needs to claw back. They need to claw back this power. They need to claw back the fucking, what's been normalized since 9/11 of the executive branch just undertaking, acts of war by themselves on their own accord, without the consent of Congress, with no actual, act of war or declaration of war towards any country. Like, that's what we need to make sure that we claw back in this country. And it doesn't matter. That goes for both Democratic presidents and Republican presidents who have all abused, this since 9/11 to some regard, right? Of course, it's been brought to an even more, substantial level here by Donald Trump. We talked about how, he exponentially increased drone strikes and civilian casualties after Obama, and he's only increased that. He's only done more of that, now launching more strikes in his first, 10, 11 months than Joe Biden did in his first 4 years, in his total 4 years, I should say. So again, he's continued on with that same thing. He continued on with that same pace that he had in his first administration.
Come up from a vote, but Reed, I can tell you that for the past many years predating Trump, Congress has really exceeded its authority when it comes to weighing in on war powers.
Again, that's what I was just talking about. We definitely need to claw that back. We need to, again, stop normalizing the fact that the executive branch can just say, okay, we're going to kill this guy, we're going to strike these people. It doesn't care about, it doesn't matter about collateral damage. And nope, don't worry, I don't have to talk to Congress about this at all. We have to make sure that that stops, because it's gotten us into a lot of hot water. It's gotten us into a lot of problems, and it's going to continue to do so. But let's hop on to, what else did I want to look at? There was a couple clips involving this kind of this topic on the show that I can't stand. But this guy made himself look like such an asshole that I figured I'd play it on the show. It's the Abby Phillips show on CNN. I think it's one of the more useless shows on television, right behind Piers Morgan. It's pretty much the new Jerry Springer, pretty much the new, they have that, what's the asshole's name now? The white guy they love has Scott Jennings, or whatever the fuck his name is, the guy that shouldn't be in front of a television for any outlet, for any organization, but CNN loves propping this guy up because he aggravates so many people and it gets the clicks and whatever, you know what I mean? But this guy looked like such an asshole. I figured I'd just play a couple clips from it. But yeah, let me throw this on the screen for you guys. This is a clip from Sean Hannity first. This is, again, with the more going along the lines with the North Korea propaganda, with them trying to talk about, listen to how he talks about Donald Trump in this. Just look how fucking creepy and cringy and gross it is, the way that they speak about Donald Trump. They don't speak about him as a real person. They have to make him this like supreme being, like he's not even human. You wouldn't even believe it. Like, it's just so fucking gross for grown men, for anybody, for that, in that circumstances, to, just, I don't know, throw themselves on the fucking floor and kiss the feet of a guy so much that does absolutely nothing for anybody. So check this out. This is a short clip, but listen how he talks about Donald Trump.
So she's now going around questioning Trump.
And again, just to preface this, just for more context, he's showing Joe Biden. He's mad. He's mad that people are like giving Joe Biden credit for, being out and about, looking as good as he does, talking to people, helping people fucking at Thanksgiving, taking pictures and stuff. So he's pissed off about that. So he has to go into this like, people are talking about Biden. Well, let me go over the top in my praise for Donald Trump.
Cognitive decline, yet had an active role in hiding Biden from the press and from you, the American people. Here was reaction. He's the host of Outkick and the Clay and Buck Show, our friend Clay Travis. Really? That person? I love they say this about Trump. I saw him while I'm in D.C. He is just, he talked for hours.
He can't even find the words. Like, he can't even manage to express the feelings that he has inside for this guy. Like, he's trying to make it so over the top. Like, he's talking, Donald Trump, he spoke for hours at end, and it was the most beautiful thing. Again, I needed at least 2 changes of pants at the event. It was amazing. Look at how fucking like exasperated he is.
Talked for hours. I watched it. I talk to him regularly. I hear it. He is as engaged as anybody I know.
Hold on. I got something for that. Hold on. This is like the guy on Fox saying that Trump is sharp. Right? Yeah, he's sharp. He's real sharp. Let me see if I can pull something up for that. Yeah, there you go. This is Donald Trump at his sharpest. Yeah, hold on. Say that again, Sean. One more time. Hold on.
Watched it. I talk to him regularly. I hear it. He is as engaged as anybody I know.
Yeah, there he is. Anybody Sean knows. He's just as engaged as anybody Sean knows. Look how engaged he is. He's engaged in his third fucking dream of that particular meeting that he was in. That's what he's engaged in. He's engaged in financial fraud in his dreams at that current moment. That's what he's engaged. That's what he's engaged in. But please do go on, Sean.
He just had a 2-hour cabinet meeting
that he fucking slept. Oh my God! They're using that as the example of his sprightness. Like, that's you're talking about the meeting that everybody's making fun of him for sleeping at. That one. That's what you give. That's what he's sharp. He's, nobody's on point more than Donald Trump. And to point that out as an example, look no further than that press conference that he just slept through. Oh, these fucking people. Absolutely shameless. Absolutely shameless. All right, let's go on to, again, there was just a couple clips here from this, like I said, the Abby Phillips show. And I don't know who this kid is here, but again, he makes himself look like a fool. Abby gets him pretty good. Navarro gets him pretty good. This is just one of the instances where they're going back and forth on, the Venezuela boat strikes and whether or not, even going into Venezuela on the whole. And he tries to, again, when Republicans have no facts or figures or argument to combat you with, when you're talking, what they do is they relate to, like personal attacks or, I'll kick your ass type type of thing, which is pretty much what he does here because he has nothing to combat it with. So he says, well, your day job is The View. But he didn't expect the shot back from Navarro where she got one in and says, well, you have no day job, which I thought was a pretty good moment. Again, I just want to show this real quick where they're going back and forth.
It's complete.
Ayla, I'll make this big on the screen, play this. And I think there's just one other clip where he looks like an asshole, and then we'll move on. Again, it was just a few of these, but I just love when people just completely out themselves on national television.
Invested in getting Maduro out. We've got 1/4 of the arsenal of the U.S. Navy parked off the coast of Venezuela.
Protecting American interests.
What is the American interest? Oil?
Drugs pouring into this country and killing us?
Most drugs do not come through Venezuela. Then why aren't you bombing Mexico?
So we closed the southern border, and that did a really good job. Stop. That's a ridiculous argument.
You stop.
No, that's a ridiculous argument.
So again, he doesn't want to admit that again, he looks like an idiot when you actually take a look at the percentages, when you actually take a look at where these drugs are manufactured, where they're transported from, where the vast majority are made and come into this country. Again, Mexico being the major culprit, both when you talk about fentanyl, when you talk about cocaine, right? You can talk about the precursors coming from China. Of course, you have to talk about cocaine in Peru and Colombia. Of course, multiple other areas as well. But we're talking about the main culprits, the main players in here. So it's okay for this guy to say that in a place, in and around a place, Venezuela, that's mainly used as like a transportation hub. Like they're not manufactured on a large, to a large extent, at least the ones that come into the United States from there. It's more of like, okay, how can we get this, use it as a through point type of way? But this guy's okay with killing human beings. He's okay with killing human beings, seeing no evidence as to who the human beings are affiliated with, right? He's okay with that, killing them in the Caribbean. But when we talk about, where the vast majority of the drugs that come into the United States, Mexico, are coming from, he's not up for the same actions there. He's very happy with just, shutting down the southern border, even though there's a multitude of other ways in which those drugs make it into this country, even with the so-called shutdown of the southern border. He's not okay with that. Like he can't bring himself to admit that, it doesn't, the actions don't fit the crime, right? The response and the amount of Navy personnel that we have down there is not like, it doesn't make sense to say, okay, we have all those people down there so we can continue taking out these 25-foot fishing boats, 11 guys at a time. It's not adding up. So clearly we're down there for something much, much bigger, which we can only look at and say, must be the oil. Right. And he's just, again, refuses to acknowledge this entire thing. And both Abby and, Miss Navarro, excuse me, I'm forgetting her name. I'm blanking on her name. But, they do a very good job of pointing this out. Abby in particular. And I think that's in the next clip.
You're the one being
the president you advocated for 4 years, Joseph R. Biden, allowed our border to
even the fucking commentators cannot help but bring Joe Biden into every conversation. That's their out. That's their off ramp. If they find themselves backed into the corner, that's like the emergency button that they press. Well, Joe Biden this and Joe Biden that. Like, Jesus, can you come up with anything? Like, you should be able to sustain an argument with talk, facts and figures other than just bullshit talking points.
Did Joe Biden let in tons and tons and tons? Well, tell that to the families of fentanyl families who have died. It comes from the
Again, so she correctly points out, he brings up fentanyl, and she correctly points out, if you're worried about fentanyl, then guess what? You should be aimed, your gun should be aimed, and we should have everything focused on Mexico. Or you should talk to Donald Trump about his meeting with the president of China, Xi Jinping, and the precursors to fentanyl coming in from China. Right? Because I don't hear anybody talking about that. Because if you want to stop the fentanyl, you're not doing a fucking goddamn thing to do that with having, a quarter of our Navy in the Caribbean stopping, I don't know, a couple 100 pounds of fucking cocaine on a 20-foot fishing boat, allegedly.
Mexico.
Hold on a second.
If your argument that drugs are not coming from Colombia or Venezuela to America.
Oh, I am going to argue that no fentanyl is coming from Venezuela.
Talk to the DEA.
No, you are wrong. You are lying to the American people. You are part of the fabricating a narrative that doesn't exist.
Hold on a second.
Well, your day job is The View, so let's talk about fabrication.
And this is why this show, I find, is fucking useless. And this is what it's more just people talking over each other. Yeah, every now and again, a good point is made, or every now and again, people like Scott Jennings or whoever this fucking kid is make an ass out of themselves, and you kind of get, the clip that you're looking for. But on the whole, it's more just, people talking over each other, yelling and screaming, talking about absolute nonsense. And then, people doing their best in the moment to try to call it out. But it's just like, a gish gallop of nonsense where you can kind of only pinpoint and call out and dispute a few of the bullshit talking points that they have because they spew out so many. Again, it's another Piers Morgan where he pretends to be like pissed off when he loses control, but really he knows that's what everybody likes. He's very good at it. It's just, a lot of the show kind of divulges into this, but here's another one of them where, Abby Phillips rightly says where, it's trying to pinpoint this kid. It's trying to lock him down and say, hey, basically, are you willing to live in reality? Are you willing to stipulate on basic facts that, we have right in front of our face? That's how I can determine whether or not you're going to be engaged in a conversation properly, or, a meaningful conversation, or if it's just a fucking waste of our time to be talking with you. So she tries to pin him down to talk about, okay, where are the majority of the drugs coming from? Where's the majority of the fentanyl? And he refuses to answer the question. Again, just outing himself, making himself look even worse in this situation. He would have looked 10 times better had he just answered the question, but he doesn't. So I just want to play a little bit of this. This is, again, a little bit of a longer clip. We don't have to go through the whole thing, but, just to show you how, shameless these people are.
Harrison, you are wrong.
I'm not
okay?
wrong.
Yes, you're wrong. Because you just mixed up a whole bunch of stuff there.
No, I didn't.
Where does fentanyl come from?
It comes from many places.
Where does
But
90% of the fentanyl that comes into
coming through the southern border?
Where does it come from?
In which the Democrats allowed.
So where does it come from?
The Democrats allowed the
Does it
southern
come
border
from
to be
Venezuela?
open.
So clearly she's asking a plain, simple question directly in front of his face, and he's just refusing to A, acknowledge it, and B, to answer the question, right? And again, she brings it up here where she's saying, I'm just trying to say, hey, is this kid living in reality? Is he going to have, a meaningful conversation with me? Or is he just going to fucking, uselessly come here and gish gallop with, nonsensical talking points?
It comes from many places. Do
Where
you
does
know
it
for a
come
fact
from?
that fentanyl is not coming from Venezuela?
Okay.
To his point, though.
So
Abby,
no,
So you're an expert on where the drugs are coming
Arthur,
from.
hold on a second. There's the reason I'm asking you this is
You're
because
telling me 0% of
I'm
fentanyl
trying to
that comes into
gauge.
the
You know what
United
I'm trying to
States comes
gauge?
from America.
You know what I'm trying to gauge? I'm trying to gauge whether you're willing to just state basic facts, you're willing to listen, and it sounds like you're not willing to do either of those things in this moment.
You can't even say that fentanyl can and does come from Venezuela.
Hold on a second. What Anna said was that a
That it
majority.
doesn't come.
Are you going to listen or not?
Are you going to?
A majority of the fentanyl comes from Mexico. Is that true or false?
Let's say
Again, why the inability to answer the question? I don't know. Again, because it doesn't stick with his agenda, right? It's not going to look good to his talking points. He has to give in. He has to concede on a point, which they're unwilling to do. If it looks bad, if it goes against the dear Fuhrer, right? If he thinks it's going to be held against him, like, it would give him more credit had he just been like, hey, yes, you're right. You're 100% right. The vast majority, the overwhelming majority does come from here. And again, it does look kind of silly having a quarter of our fucking Navy in an area where, again, we're talking about fentanyl, but that's not where it's largely produced or comes from. So, again, are we talking about oil or are we talking about drugs? Because it can't be drugs as we're pardoning, ex-Honduran fucking drug kingpins responsible for, again, 400, 500 tons of cocaine coming into this country. And we're killing people at the same time. You can't have your cake and eat it too.
Abby, here's where the problem comes in.
Hold on, Arthur.
It's the fentanyl gets cut, the cocaine gets cut with the fentanyl.
Arthur, hang on a second. Arthur, hang on a second. Let's say it's true or false. It is true that a majority of the fentanyl comes from Mexico.
Correct.
Here's the other thing that is true.
That's true.
It is also true that a majority of the cocaine that comes to the United States is not coming through the Caribbean Channel.
Correct.
So I'm curious
So again,
about whether
we're not attacking the most effective areas that we should be attacking. Again, if that was the real intent of the government. That's what the main point is that everybody's trying to get across. Like, you understand, if fentanyl is the main fucking focus, if drugs, are, again, if we're led to believe that drugs are the main focus, then why are we in this area that, again, even if we do have a quarter of our fucking Navy down there, even if we do strike, as many of these 20-foot fishing boats as we can see, it's not going to put a dent. It's not going to do anything as it pertains to the amount of drugs, the amount of fentanyl, the amount of cocaine, the amount of anything that comes into this country. A, they're going to find other fucking methods. They'll find them rapidly. They're fast. They're quick. They're smart. They have the money and the resources to do it. And B, why, wouldn't you attack the place where the majority comes from? Or again, what wouldn't you send in, covert, operations to find out where it's being produced, where it's being manufactured in these areas, and go in then, right? Like wouldn't that have the most effect? Wouldn't that be the most effective use of your resources, your time, your money, putting people in danger to get the most bang for your buck, as opposed to, again, we could do this for fucking 25 years. They could keep sending in these fishing boats. Meanwhile, they're sending the drugs on a totally different route. Right. And meanwhile, the United States is spending fucking billions of dollars taking out these boats and having absolutely no effect in the back end on fucking people dying in this country, drugs coming into the country. Again, never mind that we don't acknowledge that, what was it, like something between 85 and 95% of the drugs that are trafficked through the southern border and brought into this country are done by American citizens. Right, as opposed to what people think, fucking these, the people carrying it in on their backs across arid land through like this open area in the border. No, they come through ports of entry. The drugs come through ports of entry. The people where all the people and the guns and the drugs and the fucking dogs are, right? Like all those, that's where the vast majority of not only the people but the drugs also come into this country, not through open areas and like these arid fucking open expanses in the border somewhere where people like kind of think that's how the drugs come in. It's not.
You're willing to acknowledge facts or not, or if you're just more committed to your talking points.
If our intelligence community is saying that these are narco-terrorists with the desire to
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we believe our intelligence communities all of a sudden? Because I remember Donald Trump in Helsinki directly, combating our own intelligence agencies in taking the word of Vladimir Putin. And I've heard in multiple examples since then, Donald Trump rightly, or not rightly, but, on his own come out against the United States intelligence agencies, saying that he doesn't believe what they have to say, saying that they're wrong, saying that there's no way. Again, the president of Honduras was put in jail, was convicted, was tried and convicted in the United States by the United States DOJ, right? Like, so again, Donald Trump, by releasing him, by pardoning him, by saying that was like a corrupt investigation with holes in it, is directly combating the judicial system in the United States, is directly shitting on, the investigatory work of the people that, even one of them, I think, was his lawyer. I think it was Emil Bove that was one of the people involved in that fucking investigation and the prosecution. Right? So again, are we taking the word of it all of a sudden? Now we believe the intelligence agencies and they're 100% right and trustworthy? Because you might want to talk to Donald Trump about that, because that's not really what he tells everybody when he comes out in front of the cameras all the time.
America.
Okay.
And to bring drugs into this country, it
don't
is
you
within
think
the
they should
president's
provide a shred of evidence to that point?
Yes. Have you talked to members of Congress who have had these classified briefings?
Should they not provide evidence that those drugs that they know for a fact that those drugs?
And I wonder if he knows. I wonder if he knows that Rand Paul has been denied access to these briefings because he's been against the boat strikes. As I'm pretty sure he said in a recent interview, right? So I wonder if this kid knows that, he thinks like everybody in Congress is open to any of this information that they want. That's not how it's kind of being done. That's not how it's, the process is going right now.
To the United States. There are a lot of legitimate questions about whether that is true. You had Rand Paul, a Republican, saying that the distance between Venezuela and Miami is so great that there is no way that these little fisher boats would end up in Miami. So these are legitimate questions.
I'm not saying the questions can't be asked.
There are factual issues with your assertion that the fentanyl crisis is being caused by Venezuela, when we know for a fact that is not the case.
If you're going to stand here today
to
and say that Venezuela is not
really says
responsible
more about your commitment
for
to
drugs
talking points than
eviscerating
it says about your
populations.
commitment
So
to
if you
the
want to
facts.
defend Maduro and the country of Venezuela,
and there he goes. Now he has to try to make it seem like Abby's defending Maduro. Again, I didn't hear anything that she said in that entire fucking segment that had anything to do with defending Maduro. Right? It had nothing to do with that. It was whether or not we had, the legal basis, whether or not this kid was ready to, live in reality and to look at the facts and figures that we have to see exactly where the drugs come from, or the overwhelming majority of the different types of drugs come from around the world, and it not being anywhere around Venezuela. Right? It just that's the facts of the matter. And that's what this kid doesn't, he's unwilling to recognize, because he knows it's not going to look good for him. He knows it's going to go against his talking points, his rhetoric, his agenda. So, good job here by Abby Phillip and Navarro and, anybody else on the panel that called this kid out. But, again, on the overall, on the whole, I don't see, much use for a show like this, and allowing people that are just so willing to come out and lie and lie through their teeth night in and night out with no shame whatsoever to the American people, to give those people a platform, to pay them to come on just so you can get clicks and help your ratings, which I don't know if it's actually done, is pretty sick and disgusting for a major platform from the so-called mainstream media. All right, but let's dive into a couple of these as well, because this is where we dive into Donald Trump's little racist screed that he had the other day about Somalians. I didn't play it on the show. We went over and covered a couple different aspects of not only that meeting, but also what happened on that day. But I do want to make it clear. To everybody, again, how racist and bigoted our current president still is. The shit that, it's getting worse too, because he's getting less and less careful. He's caring less and less about what he says in front of cameras. Not that he ever did, but it's becoming ever more apparent that he's losing that ability to have that, just the little filter, whatever filter that he did have, right, to stop himself from saying this dumb, racist, bigoted shit. He's losing that ability. Not only cognitively to come up with names and dates and times, right, but also to stop himself from saying shit apparently just like this. So, let me play this clip and then we'll go on to I want to play James O'Brien. We haven't taken a look at him because I just finally figured out my VPN, which wasn't allowing me to watch any of LBC for some reason. But yeah, I want to take a look at, what people across the pond, what people outside of the United States, what people not affiliated with the Democrats or the Republicans, not affiliated with American politics at all, think about Donald Trump's rhetoric. Think about what he says, right? That would give us, I think, as Americans, good insight, which is why I like to watch news from all over the world, because we tend to kind of, get wrapped up in the bubble of American politics or the bubble of, Democrats. And, we all agree with each other sometimes or disagree with each other if we're talking to Republicans. They have their talking points. They love to say that we have our talking points. But we don't often hear people that, don't have a fucking dog in the race, right? Have no skin in the game, talk about and give us their opinion on what they see, how they view what's going on in the United States, how they view what's being said by our president, what's being undertaken by our Secretary of Defense, right? So that's why I think it's good every now and again to pop over across the pond, take a look, humble ourselves, take a look at what other people are saying. And we do this a lot when Donald Trump says, oh, the people fucking respect us so much more on the world stage. Well, you can pull up Al Jazeera, you can pull up LBC, BBC, you can pull up any other fucking, channel in and around, around the world and hear what they're saying. And it's not going to be that they respect or love or, commend the United States for what's going on. They're scared. They're worried. They're laughing, right? They're outright mocking the United States for what's happening right now. So, again, let's dive into this video from Donald Trump where he went on this kind of racist, bigoted screed out of pretty much nowhere the other day in one of these meetings. Even bringing up Ilhan Omar in this, just outright fucking bigoted, racist nonsense here. But yeah, I just want to play this clip and give us a little context to what James O'Brien and his guest are going to be talking about. So yeah, please, again, thank you so much, guys, for giving me the opportunity to to bring you the news, to give you my opinions, to maybe give you some entertainment during the day. If you could hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to 15,000 subscribers. I don't know if we're there yet. I think we're like 4 or 5 away. I don't know. It keeps giving me 5 and then taking away 6. YouTube loves fucking with me like that. But if you're not already subscribed, please think about subscribing to the channel. Again, I'm Boston Brian. This is Blunt Politics, a political podcast made to sift through the bullshit, lies, propaganda of the mainstream media, Donald Trump, the GOP, Russian propaganda, any propaganda. We try to, jumble it down, break it down, and then make it so it's more easily digestible for the everyday working class individuals of this country, like you and like me, because that's who's affected by these policies. All right. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. You guys are the most fantastic chat on earth. Thank you to the mods who are the most fantastic mods on earth as well. You guys are the best.
Somalians ripped off that state for billions of dollars, billions, every year, billions of dollars, and they contribute nothing. The welfare is like 88%. They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country.
made up lies, made up fucking facts and figures to try to substantiate his claims. Just fucking nonsense. I mean, we know damn well anybody that's ever worked a blue collar trade, anybody that's ever worked anywhere knows damn well on the overwhelming basis, the overwhelming majority of immigrants, people of color that I've worked with are fucking incredibly hard, dedicated workers, right? I roofed for a long time in the Boston area. I worked with, I had the distinct pleasure and advantage and, honor of working with a lot of, Brazilian people, Portuguese, Spanish, whatever it may be. They were fucking incredible. Right? Like in awe, all of us, my friends, anybody that worked, we were in awe of the work ethic, their ability. It doesn't matter how small they were, doesn't matter how fucking, whether it's unmuscular, whatever it may be, they would outperform everybody on the job site day in and day out. I mean, to the point where, the wives and sisters were showing up and fucking, making us look like assholes on the job site. We're using the powered ladder to get the shingles up. Meanwhile, they're fucking humping, 2 or 3, racks of bundles on their shoulders, popping them up popping them up to the roof, popping them up to the peak faster than we can get the other ones up there with the machine. Right? So again, anybody that's ever been in the real world, anybody that's ever engaged and worked, with anybody like that knows just how hard and incredible the work ethic is and how much they produce, and how much they're dedicated to the craft, how much they're dedicated to showing up, regardless of the pay, regardless of how they're treated. They show up, they do their fucking job, they keep their mouth shut. It's ridiculous for him to try to, paint them in this sort of light where they don't contribute to society. Well, that's fucking ridiculous considering, a lot of the people actually do pay taxes, but receive none of the benefits from the taxes that they pay, right?
I'll be honest with you. Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country is no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I could say that about other countries, too. We don't want them to hell. We have to rebuild our country. Our country's at a tipping point. We could go bad. We're at a tipping point. I don't know if people mind me saying that, but I'm saying that we could go one way or the other, and we're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country. Ilhan Omar is garbage. She's garbage. Her friends are garbage.
Unreal. Unfucking real. Just straight out demeaning an entire population of people. As the president of the fucking United States, to be calling these people garbage, again, along the lines of, vermin, right? This is the same thing that we talked about when he was reciting shit from Mein Kampf, when he was talking about poisoning the blood of our people, right? Calling the immigrants vermin and talking about the disease-ridden people coming across the border. This is no different. This is along the same fucking lines as that, the same rhetoric you would have heard from the SS, SA, any of these Himmler fucking type of people back in the day. No fucking different. We don't want them in the country. They don't contribute to society. They're dirty. They're smelly. They're yada, 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 this bullshit and that bullshit. And actively calling Ilhan Omar a fucking, what was the word he said? Excuse me. What did he call her? Garbage. Yeah, that's what, calling people garbage. My apologies. Just fucking ridiculous. But, just to kind of give you the context, just to kind of give you the insight leading into, this next clip that we're going to be watching. Here's what other people hear. Here's how other people feel from outside of the country when they hear shit like that from the president of the United States, demonizing an entire fucking group of people, an entire population of people. Again, this is LBC, James O'Brien. Shout out to LBC. Shout out to James O'Brien. Big fan. So this is him reacting to Trump calling Somali immigrants garbage. And I think he has a guest on as well that he's questioning as well. So let's just take a little bit of a look at this again from outside of the United States, how other people from around the world feel when they hear shit like that. I know how we feel. I know how we fucking take it. I know how it's been normalized in this country. But what about outside of the United States?
Shall we start? I think that the Trump administration, with regard to Somalian people, we've reached the potential pogrom stage, have we?
I mean, just right off the bat, calling it as it is, like basically calling it stochastic terrorism, right? So, we can talk about the pogroms after World War II. people took it into their own hands to whether it was, Nazi collaborators, whether it was, still perpetrated against the Jewish people, whether it was gypsies, whether it was, communists. There was a lot of different pogroms that happened after World War II. So again, he's referencing those type of actions to what Donald Trump said and using that, again, justifiably as saying, hey, sounds to me like stochastic terrorism. Sounds to me like we're in a moment where Donald Trump is almost inviting action, violent action against people of color, against the Somalis in particular, against immigrants, as we've seen with ICE. So it sounds to me like we're at this point where Donald Trump seems to be at the point where he doesn't give a fuck anymore. And he's actively calling for, the removal from, this country by any means necessary. These people of color, immigrants, Somalis in particular, again, what he was talking about here. So right off the bat, James O'Brien making it as serious, as it could possibly make it in shedding good light on what it represents and its historical fucking representation.
Well, we've reached the stage of rounding people up and throwing them out. I mean, there's no question about that. And I think we have reached, James, a new stage in President Trump's administration. I mean, you will remember that about 10 or 11 days ago, he was in the Oval Office for that extraordinary meeting with Zoran Mamdani, the Democrat socialist who's about to become mayor of New York when the new year gets underway. And we all thought this was going to be a real slanging match, and it turned out to be a bit of a bromance that developed between the two of them. And when Zoran Mamdani was asked by a reporter if he still stood by his description of Donald Trump as a fascist, Mamdani started twisting in the wind a little bit, and Trump turned to him and said, no, it's okay. You can, it's fine. You can call me a fascist. That's absolutely fine. I mean, here we are now, I think it's 13 days later from that encounter. And we are at the end of a week in which Donald Trump, I think, certainly on the issue of these Somalis, 63,000 of them living legally in Minnesota, many more legally
I want to make
living in Minnesota. Absolutely. But now all being told that their status, along with the status of people from 19 other countries here, is going to be re-examined if they are permanent legal residents of the United States with those coveted green cards. They have today here absolutely terminated, basically put a complete freeze on all applications for US citizenship, even people who had already been told that their applications had been approved and they had a date in the diary for naturalization ceremonies from those 19 countries. They're being told, don't even think of showing up for the citizenship ceremony because there's a total freeze on your application. So, but this attack on Somalis particularly has been so ugly and so racially driven, so racist in the bigotry that President Trump has expressed over the last several days at the White House, that I think it's taken us into a new phase here.
That's why I reached for the P word, because I heard him say the phrase, I don't want them here. And he said that irregardless of their immigration status. I mean, technically, he could even be speaking about people who had been born in the United States of America to Somali parents. And
it's a great distinction. I don't think that most people are picking up on. When Donald Trump says, I don't want them here, he's not making the distinction. Like, he's not saying that I don't want the people here that are here, quote unquote, illegally or undocumented. He's saying he doesn't want these type of people here in general. So it doesn't, to the point of James O'Brien, it doesn't seem to me like it matters if you were born in this country, if you were raised in this country, if you fucking, if you've been, naturalized as a citizen in this country or not. If you're part of that race, if you're part of that fucking group, we don't want you here because, you're shit people, apparently. And of course, I'm paraphrasing what Donald Trump is thinking and saying in his mind. But this is, what it comes across as to people, again, outside the United States, people that are listening to this like, holy fucking shit, that aren't used to hearing this from leaders, aren't used to hearing this on a daily basis, have their own problems, their own issues that they're dealing with in their own country. And then every once in a while they hear something like this from Donald Trump and they're just kind of taken aback, like, okay, it's clearly now open season on people of color. It's clearly now open season on immigrants. Now clearly, exploiting and pointing out and sacrificing and putting into a corner the Somali people, openly calling them animals, openly calling them garbage. So again, you can see how other people's react to this.
I don't want them here is as close as I can remember anybody in the civilized world ever coming to the rhetoric of 1930s Germany.
And that's not me. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's not me. You might be like, you know what, Brian, you always try to bring this into World War II. You always try to fucking relate it to World War II somehow. You know, your studies of fascism and authoritarianism and the rise of it in both Italy and Germany. Like, you always try to compare it to World War II. You're always talking about Hitler. You're always talking about the Nazis. That's not me. This is James O'Brien, longtime LBC correspondent, longtime fucking radio host, done this, been around the block a bunch of times and back again. Right now, saying that, hey, I don't want these people here, to me sounds the closest it's been to the rhetoric of 1930s Germany. And we've been saying that here in this country, or I've been saying that here in this country since 2015. Okay? I've been saying that since fucking 2015. And people have been calling me hyperbolic. People have been saying, hey, you're ridiculous for these comparisons. And guess what? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, he called them garbage. He said their country stinks, which has come as something of a surprise to the authorities in Somalia, who have viewed themselves as being a very crucial ally of the United States in the war against Islamic fundamentalist terrorism in the region. But what we're seeing in Minnesota, the Department of Homeland Security, as ever, immediately snapped to attention. Thousands of additional agents being flooded there to begin an operation to start rounding Somalis up in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and in other towns and cities all over the state. And again, of course, this is all happening in flagrant violation of the wishes of the Democrats who actually run Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Minnesota more broadly. But, you know, beyond anything else, I think the language that President Trump has used in the White House this week to describe a community of people in the United States from Somalia, some of whom, as you say, may well have been born in the United States, has been the darkest, ugliest language we've ever heard from any president of the United States about any community.
The darkest, ugliest language we've ever heard from a president of the United States. All right, so you can tell that, you know, this is not something that they're kind of taking lightly. This is not something that's normalized. That's not something that these people are willing to accept, right? Nor should we. This should never be normalized, and that's something that, again, is partly to blame. We could partly blame the mainstream media. I'm sure that the percentage ranges from different people on how much you can blame them. But again, it absolutely is some blame to be placed on the mainstream media for normalizing this bullshit. But again, you can see just how other people react to this when they hear it, when they're not, involved and engaged in this on a day-to-day basis, when it's not something that they're typically used to hearing from leaders in their countries or leaders from other countries that they're used to dealing with. I think it gives us good insight as to just how crazy, insane, not normal times that we're in right now with Donald Trump
presidency.
And then from language to behavior, because the sort of breach of norms with regards to these boats that are being blown up in the ocean is, it's actually quite hard to fully relate, isn't it? But I'm going to ask you to.
Yeah, and it's not just a breach of norms, of course. It's pretty clear, unambiguous, that this is a breach of international law and maritime law that the United States has been engaged in. More than 20 boats that we know of, because who knows how many they haven't told us about, have been blown out of the water as a result of US airstrikes and other military action on the high seas. You have to take it on trust from the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, that these boats were indeed carrying narcotics and bringing them to American shores, even though Coast Guard statistics show that of the hundreds of vessels that have been interdicted on the high seas that haven't been blown out of the water, 25% of them were found to be carrying no narcotics. So if you take that 1 in 4 percentage and apply it to the 20 boats that have been blown out of the water, and again, we have no proof at all to demonstrate.
Again, that fucking that statistic right there that you just heard, where the Coast Guard says that 1 in 4 boats they stopped weren't carrying any narcotics at all, could very well be the reason that they're not using that tactic anymore, and they're just blowing them out of the fucking water whole cloth. right? To avoid the embarrassment, to avoid, you know, them going after these boats and having to say that, oh, no drugs on that one, no drugs on that one, no drugs on that one type of thing. So we can do away with that, the whole embarrassment of that. We'll just strike all of them, kill them all, make sure they're all dead, and we can say that every single one of them, 100% without fucking, you know, a shadow of a doubt, had not only terrorists on it, but also, you know, drugs that were going to kill 2 billion people on the planet.
They were actually carrying narcotics to American shores. You know, it's
you can
a reason.
see at the beginning of this sentence, it was very plain and clear. There was no ambiguity. There was no ifs, ands, buts, or maybes. It was against maritime law. It was against international law. Right? There was no discrepancy. There was no, okay, let me think about it. We have to see the film. Let me hear some fucking investigatory work. It was very clear to these people around the world, to other countries, right? This one being the UK, that what they're doing, and again, we've reported on this show about how the UK stopped sharing their intelligence with the United States in this very case, you know, in this very area, to withdraw, to take themselves out of harm's way, to take themselves out of, you know, the area of responsibility for what's going on with these strikes. So again, it's not a surprise to see that they know exactly what's going on and see it for what it is.
Bet to assume that at least 5 of those boats were not carrying any illicit cargo. It's a big day here today, though, because Admiral Mitch Bradley is going to be testifying behind closed doors on Capitol Hill about the strike in September on one of those vessels, in which it has been reported here by the Washington Post that Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, directed Admiral Bradley to kill in a second strike 2 survivors of the first attack that could be seen clinging to the wreckage and trying to get back into what was left of the vessel. And the Secretary of War has denied that he was the man who gave the order. It was Admiral Bradley's operation. So he's thrown the Admiral under the bus. Donald Trump has sounded...
even they can recognize, not being fucking, you know, again, not being from the United States, not being, you know, heavily involved in United States fucking politics all the time, dealing with their own issues. Even they can see, okay, the fact that we even know Admiral Bradley here is a problem. The fact that, you know, on one hand, Pete Hegseth is trying to commend him and trying to make it seem like he was in charge, like he's doing it for a specific reason. Like, even it's not getting by them, right? It's pretty clear to them that Donald Trump threw Pete Hegseth under the bus, Pete Hegseth threw the Admiral under the bus, and the Admiral's doing and saying whatever he has to do to try to keep himself out of the fucking brig.
Pretty iffy on all of this, said he didn't want a second strike to have been conducted if it was. And there's no question that that activity would have been, if it took place, a breach of international law. So there's tremendous interest here in what Admiral Bradley says today behind closed doors about the orders that he was given by Pete Hegseth, the former Fox News breakfast host, who extraordinarily is now in charge of 2 million men and women in uniform at the Pentagon.
Very, very insightful.
And again, you can see how ridiculous they even say that, right? To the Fox News breakfast host that's now in charge of 2 million men and women of the armed forces of the United States. I mean, again, directly mocking the fact that he even has that position. But all right, let's dive into, actually, was there any more, just one more second from that? I want to see if there's anything James O'Brien popped in to say after that. My apologies. I think I stopped that a little quick.
Also of the Washington Post journalists who broke this story, despite the fact I think that one of them has a military record that makes Pete Hegseth look ridiculous.
Yes, and of course, despite the fact that the Pentagon press area has been flushed completely of what the administration would refer to as legacy journalists, those...
so just kind of going on to talk about how Hegseth is not even close to being qualified for his position, and the actions and the steps that they've taken to get the mainstream media, to get people that, you know, they say don't do, you know, the reporting that they should out of the Pentagon. All right, let's take a look at... let's jump into the front lines. We got about 45 minutes left, so we got a couple videos to take a look at. Some of the maps I want to take a look at as well. This is the first one I wanted to dive into because, you know, for again, the 4th, 5th, maybe 6th time now, Russia is claiming major victory in and around Pokrovsk. They're now saying that they have that place around. We'll also be taking a look at Georgie from Ukraine Matters, talking about how Russia's gamble fell apart. And talking about, he's pretty adamant. Basically, we'll look at this to kind of just show you his attitude and basically how adamant he is to say that Ukraine will never sign a deal that is not, beneficial to Ukraine. They're not going to sign a bad deal. So that's something I want to take a look at. And then we'll take a look at, the deep state map. We also have the Syriac map we'll be taking a look at, because they show two vastly different things. If I could, just before we show that, look at how differently the two areas are represented. So this is the deep state map in and around Pokrovsk, the area that we've been taking a look at. You can see how Mir Narad is still not showing any connection here by the Russian forces, to the north of Mir Narad or south of Rodinsk. But if you take a look at the Syriac map here, it looks like there's substantial linkage here between the Russian forces in and around. Looks like Mir Narad is basically completely and totally cut off, totally encircled. I've been looking up recently to try to figure out how many Ukrainian forces may be inside of Mir Narad. I have not been able to find anything giving me substantial information to tell me how many troops or how many soldiers may still be inside of this area, inside of this pocket. But I'm sure we'll be learning more to come. But yeah, you can see how differently these maps are represented. So I don't know what the difference is between what the deep state map is and where they get their information, or if they're just a little more, skeptical of the information being put out by the Russians, and the Syriac is just a little bit quicker to report on that kind of activity or not. But you can see here definitely clearly in the Syriac map that the Russian forces have linked up, have encircled Mir Narad, and have pretty much taken over the entirety of Pokrovsk as far as this map is concerned. Again, I show you on the deep state map that Pokrovsk is still not entirely taken. It is disputed. It is being fought for, but it is still not being shown as taken over here, at least on the deep state map. So just to kind of give you the latest updates, the latest, what as I can see here on the front lines, that's kind of it right there. But let's dive into these claims here. This is another Preston Stewart video talking about the claims that Russia has and whether or not it's propaganda or whether or not we may be looking at some truth to it this time. All right, let's dive into it. Thank you guys. I really do appreciate you always coming back and always being helpful to the channel. Hit that like button, subscribe, throw a chat in there. I really do appreciate it. Drop some emojis.
And Volchansk. Ukraine is pushing back on those claims, saying that both areas are still heavily contested. And a Russian war reporter is complaining, saying, yeah, we advanced a little, but at what cost? So let's get into it. I've got deep state map pulled up here to show a couple different areas we're going to be talking about as we get into the Russian Ministry of Defense claims that they put out on November 30th, where they cite Chief of the General Staff Valery Gerasimov saying that the liberation of Pokrovsk in the Donetsk People's Republic, as well as Volchansk in the Kharkiv region, have both been accomplished. So the Volchansk up here in the north, we'll zoom in a little bit. The border area here between Kharkiv in Ukraine and Belgorod in Russia. We'll come back to that in a second. And then the one we're going to focus on right now is down here in the south with Pokrovsk. So we have a couple different mapping services we're going to look at today between Deep State and Syriac. Now, in terms of Pokrovsk, Alexander Kotz, a Russian mill blogger, said, quote, as of today, it can be noted that Pokrovsk has completely fallen under the Russian army. Minograd is still holding out. I'll turn to the map here to give you an idea of what they're talking about. We've got Pokrovsk. And I'm curious if he knows as to what the insight might be, why the discrepancy between the two maps. Again, I don't know if, Deep State is just kind of more cautious about how they report on things or how long it takes for them to kind of, fill in the blanks, fill in the changes on the map. And Syriac is just, I don't know, maybe more apt to go with what's reported on in the media. I'm not 100% sure. I'm kind of curious as to whether or not he kind of gives any insight as to why that's a pretty big difference. I mean, that's not just kind of like a couple blocks being fought over that we're talking about. That's a pretty substantial amount of territory and a substantial event. Again, if Mir Narad is being totally encircled, that one map shows and the other doesn't. So just kind of curious as to why that is. Oops, sorry, my apologies. Thank you, W. Here to the west. In fact, let's go with a satellite view. This might be a little easier to see or a little better to see. So we've got Pokrovsk here to the west, to the east a little bit, Minograd. Kotz says Minograd is still holding out, but its time is running out. After its liberation, the enemy will have no major populated areas on the so-called central Donbass direction. The Russian army begins the winter campaign with a major victory. Now it is time to maintain the pace. Now, look, there no doubt has been a lot of very heavy fighting over Pokrovsk for about a year and a half now, but we should also note that this is something like the 72nd largest city in Ukraine. So this marks the major victory of the Russian winter campaign. Now, Deep State Map on the Ukrainian side is pushing back on these claims that all of Pokrovsk has fallen, and we see a difference here in the maps as well. On Deep State Map, you'll see the red areas marked as Russian control, the gray as contested, and you'll see that a good chunk of Pokrovsk is listed as contested. That tends to be where I fall, and we'll get into that more here in a second. But if you look at the difference with how it's being reported on Suryak map, when they get down into Pokrovsk, you'll see they have the entire city as now being under Russian control, which is in line with statements from the Russian Ministry of Defense. Now, Deep State in their assessment said, quote, the enemy continues to disperse in Pokrovsk and its surroundings, trying to establish physical control in the area. The most enemy sightings are being made in the central and northern parts of the city as fewer and fewer crews are flying into the southern part. From the side of the defense forces, attempts are continuing to clear.
So it seems to me, from what he said, that he's kind of leaning towards more the deep state representation of what's happening on the front lines as opposed to the Suryak. That's kind of what I was getting from what he just said there. I mean, he said that the Suryak more represents what's being talked about and what's being represented on the Russian side of things. And again, I'm not sure what the affiliation or the owners or who runs it or anything like that, but I think he's just trying to say that that kind of more represents what's being reported on as far as what the Russians are saying in the deep state is more along the lines of what he's being seen, what he sees happening on the front lines and being reported on the front lines as well.
Areas, but the main work is being done by pilots, drone pilots, who are constantly trying to detect the enemy and destroy them. Unfortunately, we often hear cleared, but this does not solve the core problem, as the enemy has the possibility to introduce.
One also has to wonder why the holdout to go into, Mirnorad, right? Like, why did the Russians bypass Mirnorad to get to Pokrovsk? Does that tell me that there's more forces? Sorry, I'm just kind of thinking out loud as this is going on. My apologies. But I'm just trying to figure out why it looks like they basically they bypassed Mirnorad to get to Pokrovsk. You can see here, right? They had to go far south to get to Pokrovsk. Is that because there was a substantial amount of forces in Mirnorad and they had, it was easier for them to go around than it was to go through it? And if so, how many of those Ukrainian soldiers managed to escape before? And if so, that city is surrounded. Again, these are all questions that, I would like to find the answers to, just to kind of see what the remaining threat is to, again, how many Ukrainian soldiers that may be in this area, or again, if the vast majority have managed to escape, using this highway that we were talking about, that they were able to use. So again, just kind of, questions that I've been just kind of thinking about in my own head here. I should shut the fuck up. Sorry.
Infantry units into the cleared area. And this is why I think it's probably more, whether this ends up being entirely accurate or maybe more representative of the current fight, not just in Pokrovsk, but any major urban center that's being contested right now, is the way that Russia has carried out their tactics is through infiltration. So they send 1, 2, 3 Russian soldiers at a time, and maybe they take up a position just south of the rail line here. And then they'll report up and say, hey, we're there, maybe even fly a flag, get it on video. And certain mapping services will say, great, that's now the limit of advance for the Russian armed forces. What happens after Ukraine kills that one guy? Does the map revert? It can't. I mean, it is constantly throughout the day shifting back.
So again,
and forth.
just bringing up the tricks of the trade, the different techniques that Russians use to, again, fool or deceive or propagandize either the Ukrainians, the mainstream media, or their own citizens. Getting into one of these areas for a couple minutes to take a picture with your flag on a building, again, does not represent, does not clearly confirm the fact that you have taken over that entire area, hold it, control it, and are able to defend that area. But it's almost like, what do you compare it to? It's like, how you talk about the Russian fucking Instagrammers, the Russian, well, not even just Russian, but, these social media people that will rent out a private jet. It'll never leave the runway, but they'll take pictures in it to make it seem like they flew somewhere, or they'll rent a Lamborghini to make it seem like they own one. Like it's that type of thing. Okay, rush up, take a picture with your flag on that building. We can geolocate it. We can show it to people, say we were actually here, but really it was, highly contested. We were under fire the whole time. And it's by no means under our control. So, but, that's how propaganda works. That's the Russian tactics. They're very good at doing shit like that. So you have to beware. You have to be wary, which is, again, why this is probably the 4th or 5th time they've talked about having Pokrovsk totally under their control.
By blocks. And we have countless examples of Russian forces moving into some of these areas and then being killed. If they're followed up by Russian forces, does that mean Russia has control over the area, or is it contested? You see how it gets kind of murky when trying to figure out exactly what the frontline situation looks like in Pokrovsk. Deep State continues by saying at the same time, the area around the populated area of Rivne and along the section between Pokrovsk, zoomed in way faster than I planned here. So Rivne here to the east of Pokrovsk, Kaliningrad to the right, to the east. They said at the same time, the area around the populated area of Rivne and along the section between Pokrovsk and Krasny Liman is problematic, where the enemy is constantly being detected. The enemy sets
thank you, Luis. Appreciate that, brother. Congrats on 20 months. Thank you so much. Luis says, Boston Brian, you, Hal, and Philip Ittner are the ones that I listen to for Ukraine updates. Fuck Russia, Trump, Fox, CNN, MS Now, Slava Ukraine, Heroyam Slava. Thank you, Luis. I appreciate that. I know that, people are looking for this information, and there's, not, when you look at it on the whole of how many people are on these spaces, not a ton of them talking about it, at least this in-depthly, talking about what's actually happening on the front lines, trying to decipher, between the, the propaganda on both sides that inevitably happens in the fog of war, right? So again, I appreciate, and I hope that I can bring you guys some information, some value, some insights to this type of stuff where you may not be able to get it from other places if you're not able to watch a lot of these other people,
ambushes, bypasses the area, and even builds engineering obstacles, for example, in the form of a minefield. This complicates logistics through these areas and raises serious questions about movement in the direction of Leningrad. No doubt, when looking at this map, it doesn't take a rocket scientist or a master strategist to say that the guys defending Leningrad right now are at risk of being encircled. Again, depending which map.
Again, one has to assume this long into the battle, they would know which way this was going, and they would have used, again, the whatever escape route was possible. Again, say if it's now closed when it was open, to again remove themselves from that area, or I don't know, maybe this is a last stand type of thing where people volunteered themselves to stay in the city to again hold up the Russian forces for as long as possible to allow people to retreat, to build different defenses, regroup, resupply, that type of thing. I haven't heard anything directly or specifically reported again as to how many forces still remain, what their objective still is with the city or anything like that. But again, if I hear anything, I'll continue to dig into it and see if I find out any further information, and report it to you guys, obviously.
You go on, they are either at risk or have already been encircled. To me, this cut off of the Ukrainian lines entirely seems a little optimistic from the Russian perspective, but nonetheless, there are active fights in Leningrad, and as of now, there are Ukrainian forces in that urban center. Deep State says, as the soldiers note, logistics in Leningrad is currently being carried out using unmanned ground vehicles and drones. Vehicles or trucks have not been used for a long time. And every physical advance to a certain point is almost 100% entering an enemy ambush and engaging in combat. In particular, the soldiers complain that in addition to their areas of responsibility, they are given the task to maintain a certain first line, which requires additional resources. Although it would be more reasonable to hand over this area to additional units that would ensure the passage of logistics and relieve other brigades of resources. They wrap up by saying the situation remains critical. The battle for Pokrovsk.
I mean, it's just demolished. Every building you take a look at has some sort of battle damage on it. No roof. Destroyed totally. Sad, fucking sad.
Pokrovsk and Leningrad continues. Again, from the Russian side, they're essentially saying Pokrovsk is done. It has been taken, and we showed some footage just a moment ago. We'll show it again here of Russian forces moving through the city center. So no doubt there are Russians in Pokrovsk. That's not really up for debate. From the Russian perspective, they're starting to look at Leningrad. Now it's a matter of cleaning out this pocket here. But again, from the Ukrainian side, they're saying there's still quite a bit of combat to be had in Pokrovsk. Now, turning up north to Volchansk, we'll go back to the kind of standard overlay. It moves a little quicker on this screen. But this is the northern sector here, separating Belgorod in Russia and Kharkiv in Ukraine. These red areas for about, I want to say, a year and a half at this point, have been contested, with Russian forces moving across the border and kind of establishing a bit of a bridgehead or a buffer zone. In fact, Alexander Kotz said, quote, battles for Vovchansk took place from May 2024. The Russian army has established itself on the outskirts of the city of 20,000 in the course of a new offensive in the Kharkiv region and has...
Look at that shit. I mean, that's more reminiscent of what Gaza looks like than any European village or town or settlement. I mean, that's crazy.
Engaged in fierce street battles. Let me get back to the satellite view here to kind of give an idea of the city and areas in and around Vovchansk. Again, the deep state map here. They say the Ukrainian armed forces have deployed their best units to this front line. However, the grouping of troops north was able to create an advantage in the air and push the enemy out of the buildings. The liberation of Vovchansk allows partially solving the task of creating a buffer zone between the Kharkiv and Belgorod regions. The president spoke again yesterday about its relevance. The enemy will find it much more difficult to shell Belgorod with artillery and to terrorize it with drones. However, to reliably secure our territory, the front needs to move further south. They say, finally, from Vovchansk, you can advance towards Kharkiv itself. Zoom out a little bit here so you can see the area we're talking about. Kharkiv down here to the southwest. It is unlikely that we'll try to take it. However, if you get closer, artillery and drones will be able to deliver.
I love how they speak. Like, it's so easy for them, the Russians or anybody that is kind of, I don't know, maybe not up to speed on what it means to take a city the size and to the type of people that live in Kharkiv, right? Like, you're not just going to waltz into a city that fucking size. You're not just going to waltz into a city that fucking hardcore with people, that resolved and determined and expect to just waltz right in. You're just going to, it's going to be a breeze. You're not going to have a problem. Like, to say that we're going to take Kharkiv or even just march to Kharkiv is, that is such a substantial undertaking. And would require so much of the Russian forces that they have now available. It would be insane. It really would be insane. So again, it's remarkable to me the ease in which they
strikes
talk about
undeployed personnel.
Taking a city of that size is pretty crazy. Look at this. I mean, just to kind of, I'll put this on the map just to kind of give you an aspect as to what we're talking about, right? I think they said, what did he say? That Pokrovsk was the 72nd biggest city in Ukraine, right? 72nd biggest city in Ukraine. Let's see, how many people, does this tell me how many people inside Pokrovsk? Let's see. No, let me see. What's the Pokrovsk? What was the pre-war population of Pokrovsk? Just to kind of give you pre-war population. Pokrovsk. Okay, so this says the pre-war population was somewhere around 60,000 people. Okay. Let's see here. Population Kharkiv is roughly 1.4 to 1.5 million people. Okay, this is before the full-scale invasion. Okay, its population was approximately 1.4 to 1.5 million people. Data points from 2021 and 2022 give a slightly more specific pre-war figure of 1.447 million people. Okay, so we're talking about how many months and how many dead Russians in order to take Pokrovsk, right? And still yet the job remains to be finished. Determining, judging by what reporting you're going by. Okay, so 1.4 million people in Kharkiv, right? So we'll go into Kharkiv. Just look at the size of this fucking city, please. Will you please? Okay. So 60,000 compared to 1.4 million. I mean, and just imagine, God forbid, knowing how the Russian tactics go, if they were to, use their artillery, start using their ballistic missiles and drones to wreck the city before they send their troops in. Just think of the rubble in the Stalingrad atmosphere, the Stalingrad-like atmosphere they would create in a city this size, and how difficult it would be for the Russians to take this city. Right? So again, 60,000 in Pokrovsk. Think about the fighting. Think about the dead Russians. Think of how long that's taken. And then just try to relate that to a city of the size of Kharkiv with, again, 1.4 million people, give or take, depending on how many, are in the area, what happens in, the advancements and who leaves and who stays, right? But let's be real here. Let's just be real here. Anybody that thinks that's going to be a walk in the park or going to be easy is clearly, ignorant and has absolutely no idea what it means for, to take a city of that size under attack, like when it's being defended, to the last fucking bullet. It's crazy. But all right, let's dive into this next video because I want to give you, this will kind of give you, further insight into the attitude. What the Ukrainian people are saying, how they're feeling, what they're talking about as far as, again, the peace talks and Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff and how that's going. So this, I think, kind of gives you good insight. This will kind of give you a broad representation of how the Ukrainian people feel. Are they willing to take a deal that may not be beneficial to them just to end the war? Is the war fatigue kicking in? Let's see if we can hear it here from Georgie here from Ukraine Matters. Again, if you haven't already subscribed to Ukraine Matters, I would very much advise you to do so. Great insights, great updates. Good to hear what's going on, what's being talked about on the ground by the people of Ukraine. Again, it goes along the lines of hearing what, the LBC, BBC, Al Jazeera, what other people are talking about around the world. We can't just sit here and try to, speak for the Ukrainian people and talk about what they're feeling and what's best for them. I like to hear it from their own mouth, and I will support them in whatever they decide in their endeavors, right? So, all right, this is Russia's big gamble just fell apart. Now everything changes from Ukraine Matters. Let's dive into a little bit of this, and I'll get you guys out of here. I appreciate you guys. Another great show. You guys have been incredibly supportive. I am very blessed and privileged to have such a fabulous chat with, amazing mods that I have, with amazing contributors that I have. You guys are you're fantastic. To have the friends on this platform and other platforms like Hal and Philip Bittner and Jesse Dollamore, and having the ability to work with such great people and have such great guests on, I feel very blessed and very privileged, and I promise one day we will make this a profitable endeavor. I promise one day we'll get out of the black. All right, let's go. Let's dive into it.
Hey there, Georgie here with Ukraine Matters. There is just one topic that everyone is talking right now. It is the talks between the Russians and Americans and how Ukrainians will react to this deal. And today we're going to dissect it and talk about what exactly does it mean and how do we expect this to end. Not
good point, Desolate. That's a good point. He says, they might take, but they suck at holding. Well, that kind of goes to, again, what we were talking about there, where, and I said this on the other show, I don't know if you were here, but I tried to make this same distinction, this same point on a show before, because I brought up the fact that when you look at the map like this, it can be very disheartening to see, all of this red, right? When you see all of this covered in red, but what you don't really take into account is that Russia does not have the ability to hold all of this territory. Like you can see how sporadically, their troops are spread out. So each one of these squares here, this is a different unit. This is a different unit. This is the 69th Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade, right? So you can see the different aspects. 5th Combined Army, you know what I mean? The 403rd Guards from the Polski Motorized Regiments. So different aspects, but you can see how spread out they are. So you're 100% right where they're very good. Well, not very good, but when they do manage to take over an area, they suck at being able to defend it, which is why on the last show we reported that, some 5 or 6 kilometers behind the front lines, that was that successful Ukrainian attack that left, I think it was like 30 Russians dead in the area of Pokrovsk. Like I said, we did the ruler to see how far behind the front lines it was. And again, even though it was, heavily red, it was all red and supposed to be controlled by the Russians. It still wasn't, they didn't hold control over the airspace. They weren't 100% safe in that area. Something that we need to remember, along the lines of where we see all this red as opposed to, inside of Ukrainian territory. So again, great point being made there. I appreciate you, dude. Appreciate you. Great point. Great point. All right, let's get back into it. Oops, sorry, I got to put it on the screen. That would help.
Can guarantee you that. So let's begin. And I'm sorry if I'm going to be coughing a little bit. I'm still recovering. So bear with me here, please. And I want to start by setting the ground up where.
Thank you, Tilly. Thank you. Very proud of you as well. Very proud of you as well. Should I out you to the crowd? I mean, Dad got outed pretty quickly, but he did that to himself because he didn't know how to change his screen name. But yeah, thank you, sis. I appreciate you. I love you very much. I'm very proud of you. Always have been, always will be. And thank you so much for your support. I appreciate you. I very much appreciate you. And thank you, Dad, for alerting me to her presence in the chat.
we are in this war. And I want to start by reading this article, which says the Kremlin is close to crushing Pokrovsk, a vital Ukrainian town. Even as Ukraine raids Russia, it is losing another key battle. Raids Russia? Wait, what? All right. Because the Kremlin is close to crushing Pokrovsk, a vital Ukrainian town, was an article written on 22nd of August of 2024. Which...
Again, to further prove my point that we've talked about and we've heard from the Russians just how many times they've taken over Pokrovsk and just how many times that's been disputed, right? That's why I was very skeptical. I told you guys to be very skeptical of the reporting that you hear. The mainstream media was doing a lot to kind of fucking carry the water on this as well. The same thing along the lines as they were trying to carry water with this like ridiculous peace deal. They were trying to normalize that. They were trying to make it seem and reporting already like it was a done deal and that, you know, Zelensky basically just had to come and put pen to paper and it was going to be all set. I told you to be highly skeptical. I told you that sounded like bullshit and it was bullshit. Well, now, you know, Georgie doing a good job of reporting and letting you know here. This is from August 22nd, 2024, and the title is "The Kremlin is Closing in to Crush Pokrovsk, a Vital Town." So you can see how long this fight has been going on and how long they've been talking about, oh, going in and crushing this town, a town of, again, pre-war population 60,000, obviously probably less than that, you know, when it came time to the actual fight kicking off because of the people leaving the city. So let's talk about, I don't know, what do you want to say? 20,000, 25,000, and then talking about going into Kharkiv, like fucking, I think you better pack a lunch, brother.
Which is more than a whole year ago. I think this perfectly encapsulates step one.
Good question, Lady J. I haven't heard, I've heard of African, the most recent stories that I've heard of Russians using, you know, different nationalities was Africans. I have not heard in a little bit about North Korean soldiers. I think Kim Jong-un may have put a stop to that because we did see that report in the footage of Kim Jong-un receiving the dead bodies back of the North Korean soldiers that died in this fight, and you know how he was like wailing and crying over it. So I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on that. But I just myself, I haven't seen any reports lately of North Korean soldiers being captured or found dead on the battlefield. I have seen African soldiers, you know, reports of African being used in abused in the fight. So that I have heard. But good question. I appreciate that.
To fundamentally understand if we're going to be discussing this topic, which is the headlines are lying to you. Media is desperate for clicks. They really want you to be afraid to see the inevitability. But the truth of the matter is that Ukrainians are actually doing not that bad on the front line. I mean, the fighting is still tough, and there's a lot of questions that Ukraine need to solve to resolve systemic issues within the military. But overall, almost a year and a half ago, we were still talking about Pokrovsk's imminent fall. And even right now, to this very day, the city is not taken by Russians. And we're not even talking the fact that Russians are almost non-present in its twin city, Mirnograd, which is also important to take if Russia wants to kind of use this area for any further advances. Point number 2.
So again, it's almost like, you know, the Russians have put themselves in the position where they almost have to look back towards their own country. They now have to fight backwards, you know, and you know, really shore up what's going on in Mirnograd, again, the sister city of Pokrovsk, which it seemingly has bypassed up until this moment to focus on Pokrovsk. So now it almost looks like it has to turn and go back east to focus on Mirnograd, which again, hopefully, you know, depending on what the tactics are, what the goals are, what is being, you know, ordered by the, you know, the high command on what the Ukrainian military has to do, what their strategy is for Mirnograd. We'll be hearing, I'm sure, in the coming future, in the next few days, on whether or not, you know, they still have, you know, a legitimate amount of forces within the area, or if it's just, again, like I think Preston was saying, it's just 100% being carried out by drones and, you know, robotics, you know, not putting their own soldiers in harm's way, and basically reporting that they have all been evacuated when the time was, you know, when they had the ability to do so. So I'm sure that'll be something that we'll have to learn from reporting coming into the next, you know, several days.
between bad deal or no deal for Zelensky. We are being conditioned that this is inevitable. And as you can see here, this is where the articles are manipulating. See my point number one.
Right? I mean, Putnam makes a good point here. Just Googled how many Russian soldiers lost in the battle for Pokrovsk. 104 to 150,000, right? And I'm sure that is on the low end of the estimates, the low end of the calculations. Let's see here if I can. I mean, just think about that. Just think about that. In what do you say? A year and a half, less than a year and a half, over 150,000 soldiers on a city of 60,000, a pre-war population of 60,000. And you're going to talk about Kharkiv. You're going to talk about going into, any of the other major cities, bigger cities, after, seeing how much you've struggled with, again, Pokrovsk, and had to bypass Mirnored. Let me see if I can I'm trying to find the Kyiv Independent so I can do the latest facts and figures. I'm going to give you the latest numbers put out here because, thank you very much for that reporting on, the specific number talked about in Pokrovsk. But if you look at the overall number, you can put that in perspective a little bit. Let me see if I can find out. They usually report it at about 2 a.m., 3 a.m. my time. Yeah, here we go. There's the latest one right here. I'll put this on the screen for you guys. So this is obviously from the Kyiv Independent, and we're looking at Russia's losses as of 4 December. Okay, so 1,177,370 soldiers lost for Russia. That is plus 1,140 in the last 24 hours alone, right? I mean, not to mention the 23,000 AFVs, the 68,000 fuel tanks and vehicles, 11,000 tanks, 34,000 artillery systems, 86,000 UAVs, 1,500 MLRSs, the fucking submarine they lost, the 28 warships, the 4,000 special equipment, the 1,200 anti-aircraft warfare systems that they lost, the 4,000 cruise missiles, the 347 helicopters, and the 430 planes. I mean, these are video game numbers. They are astronomical. They are it's a joke at this point, right? This would absolutely never in a million years be allowed to be tolerated, by the American people if this was, again, our military service members being put into this meat grinder. So again, to put it in perspective, and I appreciate you very much, General Putnam, for bringing up that, bringing up those stats and figures. But to put it in perspective, to talk about it, let's talk about what happened and how many they lost in Pokrovsk and how long it took. And then let's talk about what it's going to entail and what it's going to take for this military to, again, accomplish what were its main goals when this original fucking full-scale invasion took over. So it's a vast difference. It's a big discrepancy between what they've been able to accomplish so far and what they have to accomplish in the future if they want to have any shot at, again, accomplishing their maniacal authoritarian goals.
But the reality, again, is not as painted right over here. Let's take a second here and do a little bit of physical activity, sort of a conditioning exercise here. And it's a very simple one. We're going to clap our hands for the rhythm, and we're going to repeat a very simple chant that will get us into the right mindset, into the right understanding of the situation. So repeat after me. Ukraine will not sign a bad deal. Okay? Let's try it.
All right, so I'll rewind that. Lady J, I just want to answer your question. So how many soldiers do they really have left? Soldiers is, I don't know. I don't think that would be the way I would describe, any of the people that they still have remaining to plunder from. And again, the country, of the size and population of Russia, I don't think they have any shortage of people. Again, if they put in the necessary steps of, again, just rounding people up, they still have a large population of people to go through. But again, they're not soldiers. Right, they're just going to be civilians, rounded up or conscripted with no active training, with no knowledge on the battlefield. There's a big difference between just throwing bodies in uniforms, handing them a weapon and saying, hey, hit the battlefield, between well-trained, special forces, battle-hardened fucking squads that have been together, worked together, can communicate without actually communicating. Like, that type of thing is a huge fucking, advantage on the battlefield. Again, if you're facing even a greater number of people that are not trained, right? So it gives you a good advantage. So as to how many soldiers they have left, none. How many bodies do they still have left to throw into the meat grinder? A shitload. a shitload. Unfortunately, that's just not one of their problems. I don't think people in finding people to throw into the fight is going to be one of their problems, unless you see like a revolution or a revolt, or the entire population kind of stand on their own fucking 10 toes and say, no, I won't allow this to happen. The grave sites have been growing too rapidly. We've seen too much already. Unless that happens, they have a shitload to pick from, unfortunately. But yeah, let's just finish it out, and then I'll let you guys get out of here. Let me rewind this, because this is the point that I wanted to make. We'll end on this point right here. So this is, again, Georgie from Ukraine Matters, Ukrainian citizen himself, speaking on behalf, at least in this instance, of the Ukrainian people. And I want you to hear him clearly. Especially if you're a fucking maggot, especially if you're, on the side of Russia, or just not on the side of defending and supporting Ukraine. I want you to listen up to what he says. Listen up.
Repeat a very simple chant that will get us into the right mindset, into the right understanding of the situation. So repeat after me. Ukraine will not sign a bad deal. Okay, let's try it. 1, 2, 3. Ukraine will not sign a bad deal. Oh, what is that? I can already hear people typing on their keyboards and phones that the US is going to stop supplying intelligence. US is going to stop supplying weapons to Ukraine. I want to say, slow there down, cowboy, and repeat after me. Ukraine will not accept a bad deal, because that is a fundamental fact that we always need to understand. We're going to come back to why this fact exists. But that is fundamental, that every time you want to say, but this, Ukraine will not accept a bad deal. And now we can finally jump into the meat and potatoes of this whole thing. So after the talks with Ukrainians in Florida, Witkoff and Kushner jumped into plane to go meet with the representatives in Moscow and Mr. Midget Dictator himself, Putin. And the interesting part for me here is not the meeting overall, but more of a Witkoff. It became a little bit of a meme picture that was taken during Witkoff's...
Christ. What the fuck happened to him? I didn't know he was homeless. I thought he was rich. Can he not afford a fucking razor? Or is he too afraid to fucking pull out a razor in Russia? Do they not have barbers? What's going on here? I didn't see this one. How does he look so goddamn disheveled? Yep, the rough night on the town, huh? Yep, okay, I see. The FSB treated him to a nice fucking night out on the town on Moscow, I'm sure. Got him a few friends, I bet. Probably got him in a compromising position on camera as well. I'm sure that could be used against him in the future. Oh, great. Look at him. I mean, if that's not a fucking alcoholic's 5 o'clock shadow, I don't know what is. Good grief. He looks like shit. Look at his eyes are all bloodshot. Looking like hell, man. Looking like hell.
And U.S. delegations meeting with
Again,
Ukraine.
If that's what rich looks like, I'm glad I'm fucking poor.
Yeah, he doesn't look very happy, if you ask me.
Happy,
but then we get a picture
or healthy, for that matter.
With Russians. So Witkoff with Russians, Witkoff with Ukrainians. Russians, Ukrainians. Hi, Putin. Oh, Ukrainians. Putin. Yeah, I think this, again, tells me more about who we...
Well, again, this is pretty spot on, too. I know he's using it kind of jokingly in a joking manner, but this is pretty spot on with what we found out in the, the release of those fucking messages and the emails and stuff, right? Where Steve Witkoff was like, okay, I'm kind of forced. I have to go to this meeting with Zelensky and, Donald Trump. I'm forced to show up. I don't really want to. Remember when he was talking to, I don't know if it was Kirill or if it was the other one that he was speaking with, but he was speaking to one of the guys involved in that story. And he was basically trying to tell them, like, I have to go to this meeting, but I don't want to be involved. I don't want to talk to the Ukrainians. I'm only going because they want me here. My real, the importance and my, what I want to see happen lies with you guys on the Russian side. I know you guys want peace. So that, the faces that he's showing here kind of match up
Ukrainians
exactly with what was said in that reporting. Right? So he's miserable in this meeting with the Ukrainians, doesn't want to be there, has no fucking interest, is really looking to show that right there by not shaving. right? Like these could be little signs. And again, you might be like, oh, that's ridiculous, Brian. But when you're sending signals back and forth to, the Kremlin or the FSB or, between fucking backdoor dealings with Vladimir Putin, like these little signals are fucking big, could be huge. So to be like, okay, I'm not going to dress nice. I'm not going to shave. I'm going to look all disheveled for the meeting with Zelensky and the Ukrainians, but I'm going to get all dapper. I'll shave. I'll smell nice. Believe me, I'll have my best fucking underwear on for Putin. Like that's a signal being sent to these people, which again goes directly hand in hand with the reporting that we were talking about on this show of Steve Witkoff kind of wanted to get that image across that he doesn't want to has no interest in working with the Ukrainians and is working solely on the behalf of the Russians. That's now what you're looking at.
Get a picture with the Russians. So Witkoff with Russians, Witkoff with Ukrainians. Russians, Ukrainians. Hi, Putin. Oh, Ukrainians. Putin. Yeah, I think this, tells me more about who Witkoff is and what he represents than anything else. Now, we talked extensively about what this deal is. You can rewatch the video. It's a pretty long one where we went very much into details of what is this deal, where it comes from, where it originated, and it originated in Kremlin.
Yes, it's a financial plan made to profit from the war in order to set up financial agreements and economic advancements between Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's family, the United States, and Russia in order to provide support, in order to provide some sort of benefit, reward for their, full-scale invasion into Ukraine, the murder, the war crimes, again, the kidnapping of Ukrainian children, the rape, the pillage, the plundering of the Ukrainian towns and cities. Again, all of that just so that they can be rewarded, just so we can set up an economic partnership with a country that just is absolutely looking to rebuild not only their military, but their ability to take over and conquer their surrounding neighbors, their countries surrounding them. So that's what's going on right now. As Lindsey Graham, we've been talking about this for so long. How long on this show? You guys that have been watching, we'll end on this. I'll let you guys go. We'll get into thanking some people, but how long have I been telling you? You've been hearing people, oh, listen to Lindsey Graham. He's the kind of the voice of reasoning on the Republican side. He's talking about how, vital it is to help and support and defend Ukraine. And I was the one being like, well, guess what? Apparently he didn't listen to his full statement. Apparently he didn't listen to the end of his sentence, because every time he talks about defending and supporting Ukraine, it always entails him profiting from fucking, mineral resources or natural resources or minerals somehow, or, taking over some portion of Ukraine or the businesses or having some business partnership. So it's war profiteering. So it's not helping people to help people. It's not helping people because you think that's what's the right thing to do, or you want to uphold and defend democracy all over the globe. It's because you think that you could profit from that somehow. You think that we could benefit and support and gain, financial advantage from this somehow on the backs of, again, these, thousands and thousands and thousands of stolen and kidnapped Ukrainian children, off the backs of the fucking thousands and hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian civilians and military service members that have been killed. Again, off the fucking backs of the cities and towns and villages that have been wiped off the map. That's what we're going to profit off of? I'm not comfortable with that. Nor has it ever been looked upon favorably. War profiteers have always been fucking singled out, have always been blackballed, have always been fucking looked at, laughed at, and fucking hung up on the public sphere when public stage, when fucking, when they're found out, when they're outed. So no, I'm not looking to profit off this. I want to, again, uphold and defend democracy. I want to uphold and defend the sovereignty of the Ukrainian people, of the Ukrainian territory. And make sure that Russia has absolutely no ability to do this ever again in the future. That's what I want to see. I think it should be pretty plain and clear and easy to ask and demand that the Russian military get everybody from fucking, stem to stern, everybody with a weapon, everybody in a vehicle, everybody fucking operating a drone right now with a Russian passport, to get the fuck out of Ukraine and back into Russia. And then this thing would end a lot more peacefully and a lot more quickly than, again, these negotiations could possibly, and these partnerships with Russia and allowing them back into the G8 would ever help us on the world stage. So I appreciate you guys. Another great show. Let's get into thanking some people. Hopefully I'm able to get into the Venmo this time. I need to thank some people if I missed out yesterday. For some reason, I wasn't able to get into my account, but I really do appreciate you guys. I know I say it a lot, and I hope I say it enough. I hope it comes through on the screen enough, just how proud and again honored and appreciative I am to be able to say the one, that I'm the one that you guys watch, or one of the shows that you guys watch to get news, entertainment, information, fucking whatever it may be, just to kill some time in the day. So again, Claudia, thank you so much. Linda, thank you so much. Damon, thank you so much. And I'm going back a couple days, but still, I want to make sure you guys get the proper recognition, the proper, appreciation you deserve. Peter, thank you so much. Nicole, Allison, Damon again, Garrett, thank you so much. Thomas, thank you so much. My sister Kelly, I love you. Thank you so much for your contributions. Yakov, Suzanne, Travis, Elaine, Jim, Suzanne, aka Moms, thank you so much. Johanna, Jamie, Nancy, you guys have just been amazing. Jenny Faye, Ricky, thank you so much. I'm going back a few days, but just to make sure that everybody gets their dues, everybody, gets their show of appreciation. All right, let's get into the YouTubes, because everybody here who signed up for a membership, if you sign up for, again, a membership here on YouTube, if you send in a super chat or a super sticker, then you get your dues, you get your appreciation. We highlight and, give everybody a shout out at the end of the show. And that's what we're doing here. So Gamer, thank you very much for becoming a YouTube member. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you for giving me the chance. I hope I do right by you, and I hope you have a fabulous time in the chat. Please drop an emoji in there, drop some comments. Make sure the algorithm knows that you guys are, interacting with the show, that you enjoy the show, that you appreciate the show, and that it's engaging as well. So thank you, Game. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, WW. Shout out to you. Thank you so much for being here for 21 months, man. I really do appreciate it. Happy Thursday to you. Thank you for, instructing everybody to like and subscribe. I really do. I mean, I can't thank you guys enough for the support that you guys show this channel. A small channel, something that we've been busting our balls for a long time to try to build, and hopefully, not to say that we haven't, but hopefully soon we start seeing the real payoffs. Hopefully we start seeing that real growth that you guys have been so instrumental in building the basis for. So I really can't thank you enough. Thank you. Thank you to Deb as well. Shout out to you, Deb, and the gifted memberships that you guys put into the chat. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot. It shows a lot, and it helps a lot. It really does. Mark G, let's go. Let's go. The first strike was wrong too. Absolutely. Right. So, I mean, different aspects of what we're talking about in here, but there's just some ways that you're not going to get around. Even the first strike is egregiously illegal in the eyes of a lot of the laws, under the distinctions of a lot of the policies and regulations put into place. So you're 100% right, Mark. Thank you so much for the 5 in total. Trump was just meditating. Yeah, right. He was meditating for lower prices. I'm surprised Fox News didn't pull that one out of their ass. I really am. But thank you, Mark. I appreciate you. You've been really great. I can't thank you enough. Oberman, thank you, Angela, for your $5 contribution. Shout out to you. Angela says, Oberman thinks that Trump has the same sort of brain condition that Woodrow Wilson had. Oberman's not a doctor, but it makes sense. There's a lot that makes sense. So, you know what I mean? And it's, we try to shy away from, people giving their, uneducated medical opinions, because you just never know. There's side effects that have a wide, that are wide ranging. Like they could point back or could lead back to any number of diseases or illnesses or whatever it may be. So, I mean, there's obviously something wrong, whether it's there's old age, whether that's, something more substantial, something, but we have to treat this as if Donald Trump is going to be there to the end. We can't give anybody the false hope that he's just going to drop dead. We can't give anybody the false hope that we don't have to work hard and continue to, push our, continue to push our policies and get people involved, because, don't worry, Donald Trump's going to croak. He's not going to make it through his term, and everything's going to be, resolved on that end. We have to make sure that, we're playing this fucking like we're behind 21 points in the football game. We have to continuously play this like we believe that Donald Trump will be in office and will be here to, to endanger our lives and to make our lives a worse place every second that he's in office. And we need to fucking prepare and plan for that. And again, if anything else happens and the cheeseburgers eventually do catch up to him, then we can go from there. But we always want to be prepared. Angela, you're 100% right. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for bringing that up. I'll look up what the condition was, see if we have any, see if there's any similarities in what we can see. But I appreciate you, Angela. Thank you so much. Mark, again, love this bubble. Appreciate you. I appreciate you, brother. What up, silly? What up, S-Dub? Appreciate you, dude. Thank you for being here for 7 months. I'm late, so starting the stream over. Thanks, Brian. Yeah, no worries. No worries. It's always up on YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, Facebook. So anytime you guys have the opportunity, whether it's live or it's already been posted, I really do appreciate it the same. You don't always have to catch it live. If you have to catch it after work or before work or late night, whatever it is, as long as you're watching and hitting that like button, sharing it out to friends, family, coworkers, people that you think may enjoy this type of content, then you're doing your part, and I thank you for it. So I appreciate you, Will. Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Bethany as well. Lone LBC James is cool. UK doesn't like Trump. Right. I mean, I guess I think that's pretty much the sentiment all over the planet. But there are obviously those factions, the Tommy Robinson factions, the Nigel Farage factions that are the what is it? The fucking, why can't I think of what's the saying? The not the distinction to the rule, the exception to the rule. Excuse me, I couldn't think of the word. My apologies. But you're 100% right, Bethany. Good to see you. Thank you so much for your support. We really do appreciate you. Thank you for chiming in. What's up, Luis? What's up, brother? I appreciate that compliment, man. I really do appreciate that compliment. I just, I'm very passionate about the subject. I don't consider myself a fucking professional or a journalist or anything like that, but just somebody that is, again, very passionate about the subject and wants to learn and wants to be as up to date on the information so that I can pass it along to you guys. We learn together on this show. I'm not here to teach or, to look down and talk to you guys on a soapbox or anything. I am one of you. I am a chatter first and foremost, I'm a chatter that consumes this type of stuff, and we're just learning it together. We learn it together, the rules and regulations of the government and what's happening behind the scenes, and we just try to break it down together. That's why I feel like this is such a family community that we've built here, as opposed to me being the host and you guys being people that come in to learn, whatever it may be. You know what I mean? I just hate that aspect of these hosts that think they're standing on a fucking soapbox and they're better than their communities. They know more and they drink with their pinkies up. I don't. I'm one of you. Same as you. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate you, brother. I was not napping during the show. Don't worry if you were. It's a tough life. It's a hard knock life. But I appreciate you, Mark. Thank you, JD. Thank you, WW, as well. Congrats on the 15. We finally hit it. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Now, let's not count our chickens before they hatched. YouTube has a funny way of, feeding you something positive, but ripping it away from you over the week. Somehow they love giving me like 25 subscribers, and then they'll take away 35 just to kind of be like, hey, you know what I mean? So let's not count our chickens. Let's see if we can, let's get well beyond that point, and then we'll celebrate. But thank you, WW. I really do appreciate it. You guys have done such an amazing job at helping me get to this point. It's been a long haul. It really has. It's been tough. It hasn't been easy. And both financially, both, moving across the country, changing careers, hoping that, I would set up a community where, people would continue to watch the show. And it's really a big gamble. So, I appreciate you guys for so far having that gamble paid off. And hopefully we can continue to build this community in the right way and not hide anything behind a paywall and not, have any fucking corporate sponsors or, anybody trying to sell you anything on this channel. So again, with the financial contributions of you guys as independent media, as an independent creator, that's the business plan that I want to continue to follow forward with. And it's only with the help and on behalf of you guys that I can continue to do that. So I appreciate you. It goes a long way. I really do. Thank you, WW. Thank you, Ruben. Trump lies about everything. Facts that could not be disputed no matter what. And to round it out, thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. Says, woohoo, thank you on the 15,000 subscribers. Again, thank you so much. I can't say how much I appreciate it, how privileged I feel, how honored I feel to be able to, to do this and to have such a fabulous community, to have such fabulous mods, to have such a fabulous girlfriend and to have such a fabulous, a position that I'm in right now and to be able to build off of this. And, like I said, hopefully one day be able to pay all the bills. That's the goal. That's all I want to be able to do. Just pay all the bills. We're not looking for Ferraris or yachts or anything, just to pay the bills, not have to take any fucking sponsors or corporate money or anything like that, and just do it the right way. Not care what anybody else thinks, not care what anybody else tells you to say or wants you to say. Just be free and open to speak my mind as I choose. And hopefully people will enjoy that. So thank you guys. I will see you Sunday. I really do appreciate it. Oh, sorry. Don't want to miss Michael. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. You guys are fantastic. You always have been. You always will be. Again, Ruben, thank you. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. So, Ruben, big day for you guys. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everybody else as well. Luis, Mark, JD, all of you guys. Silly Willie. Appreciate it, man. Angela, you guys have been fantastic. Thank you, Deb, WW Gamer. From the bottom of my heart, I really do appreciate it. Thank you for getting me to 15,000. Oh, Candy, let's go. I'm never getting out of here. Let's go. It's freezing here. I got nothing. Have a great day, Brian. Yeah, my dad said it's supposed to get down into the single digits tonight down in the Boston area. So, but unfortunately, no precipitation in the air. We're looking for some fucking snow. Well, I'm looking for some snow for my dad because he loves the snow. I love the snow, and I want him to have the snow that he loves. So, all right. I'll see you guys Sunday. We'll be looking at anything that comes out here in the meantime. I'm sure we'll be all on top of any breaking stories that come out. If not, you can be damn sure that we'll be speaking about all of the serious and, important issues that we're passionate about and love to report on here at Blunt Politics. I really do appreciate your help. I appreciate your financial contributions. Again, if you're watching this at a later date, you can chime in here on Venmo. You can sign up for a YouTube membership just underneath me. There's patreon.com/BostonBrian. You can sign up there, get you into the Zoom chats, which just allows you to put, a couple faces behind the screen names that you engage with in the chat. It makes it a little bit more, I like to use the word intimate, but you get what I'm saying. But I can't thank you enough. I really get out of your seats, get into the streets, find your nearest protest, find your nearest rally, stay loud, stay proud, stay aggressive, but keep your head in a swivel out there. Please stay safe. And again, until Sunday, I'm Boston Bryant. This is Blunt Politics, the political podcast made to sift through the bullshit, the lies, the propaganda of the mainstream media, Donald Trump, the GOP, Russia, whoever it may be. And then we just kind of boil it down, break it down, and make it more easily digestible for, people that, like it, fed to them that way, or like it, broken down in that sort of way. So I appreciate it, guys. I'll see you Sunday. All right. Thank you for everything. Thank you for everyone. Appreciate it. Bye, Cal. Bye, Dad. Love you guys. Mom, if you're watching, love you. Tim, love you too. All you guys, you're fantastic. All right, I'm out. I'll be here for fucking 10 years if I try to thank every one of my family members. My Irish family will be here fucking a week. All right, I'm out. Peace. Love you guys. See you Sunday. Thanks, Pops. Love you, bud. Appreciate you. Send some my way, dude. Don't fucking. Why are you hogging all the snow? Thanks, Adam. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you to all the mods. Thank you, Mozart, MJ Daniel, Lord Bruma. Thank you, guys. What's up, Stairs? Dusty? What up, Dusty? Hey, Chantel. -18 C here tonight. So 0 is 32, so that would be 0 is 32. 10 degrees-ish. What's 18 C? Now I gotta look this up. Oh, 0, basically. -18 is basically just 0 degrees. So bundle up. Bundle up. Uh-oh, did I hit the boot? Thanks, guys. I'll see you later. Heroyam Slava. Peace. Remember, nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen.
Nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen. The kidney has a very special place in the heart. It's an incredible thing. We're a nation that just recently heard that Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat uphill, me boys, never fight uphill. They were fighting uphill. He said, wow, that was a big mistake. He lost his great general, and they were fighting, never fight uphill, me boys, but it was too late. Gettysburg, what an unbelievable battle that was, the Battle of Gettysburg. What an unbelievable, I mean, it was so much and so interesting and so vicious and horrible and so beautiful in so many different ways. It represented such a big portion of the success of this country. Gettysburg, wow. I go to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania to look and to watch. Army manned the air. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do. When you ran out the healthy arms, you ran out of really healthy. They had great arms, but they ran out. It's called sports. It's called baseball in particular, and pitchers, I guess you could say, in really particular. Eating the dogs, the people that came in, they're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
Yes, of course, hence the name. Movement, it moves a certain distance, then it stops, you see. A revolution gets its name by always coming back around in your face. You tried to kill me, you son of a bitch. So welcome to the revolution.
For the rest of my life, I have the curse that I have little hands. Little hands.
Hey, you got a little chubby going there.
Fucking Nazis.
Hey guys.
The big, fat, sloppy